Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 11th race of the 2025 Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series season. Caleb Hoffman, along with Ewan O'Leary. Zach Johnson joins us in the booth tonight for the SM Racing 400K at Kansas Speedway. Coming off of a crazy round at Texas last week, Ewan, these guys are chomping at the bit to get going here at Kansas and should be a good one with these next-gen race cars.
Yeah, exactly. Really looking forward to it. Really enjoyed Texas 8 days ago, actually. Surprisingly amount, actually, I enjoyed it. It was a fantastic race. Let's see what Kansas has to offer us this time round. It feels similar in some ways to Kansas with a few obvious differences. So hoping that we see some similar racing to what we had 8 days ago, because it was fantastic.
Yeah, going to be seeing lots of multi-groove racing hopefully here, but take you through first the starting lineup and a few fresh faces up at the front of the field. Joe Armstrong going to be starting on the pole. You see in the waste management machine, Jake Nichols will be to his outside. Daniel Falkingham and Zach Novak third and fourth. Alexander Van de Sant fifth. Dylan Basin starting from the sixth position. Jacob Wilkerson in seventh. Zach Kerr in eighth. Seth Knoll and Jonathan Cutlip make up the top 10.
Yeah, we've got Gabriel Dahari just outside of that top 10 with Cosman Inuso next in 12th. Kevin McAdams is up there as well in 13th position with also Ryan Hunter alongside. Stuart Mercurio, Scott Doucette, Conrad Kolonix round out the top 20.
Connor Horn 21st, Ray Alfala in the 22nd position, Brandon Cattell 23rd, Sean Conklin 24th, Malachi Drake in the 25th position, Lawson Peel 26th, Jose Solis in 27th, Jaden Hopp 28th, Nick DePalmo 29th, Kevin King in 30th.
Christian Kendall is just outside the top 30 for Tom Wetmore with Chris Wetz and Eric Lombard alongside on row 17. William Schmidt is next in line all the way back in the pack. Then you get to those provisional drivers. David Brown, Michael Frisk, who's a long way up in points. Both of those two are a long way up in points, actually. Paul Mikulajczyk, Corey Carpenter, Jake Krulin, Ronnie Osmer, Ryan Sableski, Justin Melillo and Art Reimer to make up 44, I believe, unless I've got that wrong, on the field tonight.
44 drivers is correct, and yeah, all of them going to be fighting here for 167 laps around the Kansas Speedway. One stage tonight going to be right at lap 80, that halfway point, similar to the real-life first stage distance, but again, no caution for that stage, so should keep the strategy game wide open. But Joe Armstrong, Jake Nichols, both of these guys going to be trying to hold off the rest of the field tonight. Daniel Falkingham, Zach Novak, who had a really strong run last week at Texas, looking forward to see if he can pick up where he left off. However, pace car going to be dipping onto pit lane this time by, and it'll be that Waste Management Toyota along with Jake Nichols to lead us to the green flag here for the SM Racing 400K at the Kansas Speedway. Already going three wide down the backstretch here. Jake Nichols with help from Zach Novak. Joe Armstrong got a terrible launch there. Almost lost the car from the pole. Daniel Falkingham going to be able to take advantage. He'll clear the 022 of Armstrong. Be side by side with Jake Nichols. Big move here from Zach Novak all the way down to the apron to complete lap number 1.
Armstrong is particularly uncomfortable at the start here. 3 wide for the lead though, as Novak looks to the inside. 4 wide nearly through 1 and 2. Goodness me, Armstrong trying to make up for that poor start by coming through the middle here. He's not quite going to manage it. Nichols goes to the front.
Here comes Zach Novak back down to the inside. Going to get right alongside the door of Jake Nichols all the way down to the bottom. That 49 will drift back up. Right behind race leader Jake Nichols. Both of these guys already coming up on some lap traffic. Looks like Eric LeBombard might have had an issue there on the start, or may have started from the pit lane.
Yeah, I think started from the pit lane, but even then started a bit late from the pit lane, so it's going to go a lap down very, very quickly. And when the field's so close in like this, so packed up early on, you don't often see this really in mile-and-a-half track racing, so this is going to be interesting to see how they deal with that as the top drivers come through on lap traffic inside the first 5 laps of this race.
Nichols will lead lap number 3. Zach Novak is trying to close this gap down right now, about a car length. Going to be back down to the inside, though, and peaking for the race lead. Meanwhile, a little bit further back, Alexander Van de Sant under attack from Zach Kerr, who's in that 003. They get it sorted back out, and Van de Sant will take that 7th spot away.
He had a good qualifying up into the top 10, to the top 5 indeed. He slipped a couple of positions back here early on, but he's still running nicely inside the top 10, and indeed looking on the outside of Wilkerson at the end of lap 4.
Wilkerson holding his own on the inside. Van de Sant up into the outside wall, makes a little bit of contact. Just a scrape, though, and should be okay. Everybody will have to come together right here. Kerr holding his own behind Wilkerson on the inside, and Van de Sant will stay put up on this outside lane.
Doesn't seem to be anybody really right in the middle as things stand, not since lap 1. It's either right up next to the wall or right up down on the bottom. As you can see here on board with Kerr, you are off helping the guy on the low line here, just staying on that white line. There you go, you can see up in front only Nichols, I think, running the sort of middle line, bit of a hybrid between the high and the low line. Still side by side though for 6th place, and this time Van de Sant's got a better run.
Will it be enough to clear Wilkerson? Wilkerson holding his own on the inside. However, Van de Sant should have enough momentum off the corner as long as he's not boxed in by Dylan Basin. And actually didn't get a great run through 3 and 4 there.
No, it's the problem when you're on the outside a little bit here, that if they do start to catch up to Basin, then he could really get boxed in here on the straights. Could Van de Sant through on the high side again? Is he going to get alongside Basin? Indeed, no, not quite, but he will get clear finally in 6th.
And now Van de Sant will move his sights up to the number 11 of Dylan Basin. And this really and they're going to be going around. Van de Sant through the infield grass, holds onto it somehow. Off contact with that was, I believe, Jacob Wilkerson.
Yep.
Off of turn number 4, and Van de Sant from the inside the top 5 and looking to climb further. I mean, all the way back to 34th now.
It was contact with Wilkerson. He just miscalculated the fact that he wasn't quite clear there. Wilkerson thought that Van de Sant was far enough ahead of him that he wasn't going to clip him there if he took the normal racing line off of 4. But unfortunately, he did just about clip Van de Sant. It's a miracle that he rode through the grass and managed to keep it going in the right direction. How many times last week at Texas did we see that go wrong from that kind of situation? Great job to hold on for Van de Sant, but unfortunately the damage has been done in terms of positional loss. He's way down outside the top 20.
Things spicing back up at the front of the pack. They figure that out, but Jake Nichols has caught Eric LeBombard, the lap car. Zach Novak and Daniel Falkingham all right under a blanket, and Novak going to be able to use the draft to get back down to the inside of race leader Jake Nichols and make a push now for the race lead through turns 1 and 2. They're side by side.
He's going to get the run off the corner though, Nichols, and so he should keep his nose in front. And there you go, as we come towards the end of 10 laps here at Kansas. We've already had a longer opening green flag run than what we had at Texas 1 week ago. It's been some good racing so far as well between the 44 drivers who have started, although I've just seen on the timing tower there, Justin Melillo doesn't seem to be turning very many laps, so I'm not sure what's happened to him.
I believe Justin Melillo will be operating race control. I did not see normal race control operator Benjamin Easterday here with us tonight, so should be a start and park there for the 53. Either way, battle inside the top 5 is Seth Knoll puts the pressure on Dylan Basin on the outside here.
Yeah, we just about give each other space, and Knoll's having a very good start up to the top 5, and will be passed, will be clear in towards turn 1. So now we're going to start to see who's got good long run speed here. It's all well and good taking off good for 10 laps or so, but how are you going to be over the course of a long green flag run? It looks like we're going to get an early indication of that here, even in the first green flag run of the race, as we approach the end of lap 12 now.
Yeah, and the trend so far this season has been, a couple early caution flags till about, you know, the end of stage 1. And then after that, that's when we start to see our long green flag runs to the end of the race. But maybe a flip of the script here is lap 13, and it seems for the most part the field has settled down outside of that incident with Alexander Van de Samp, which, by the way, he had fallen back to 35th. He's already back up into 27th position right now.
It's a very good recovery. It is easier to pick them off one by one like this when they are all so close together at the moment as it is, but it is nevertheless a very impressive recovery from Van der Sant, and hopefully he can continue that going. I guess it does also show that he has got very good speed here. Absolutely deserved to be running up inside that top 10 as he was. Wasn't just a freak qualifying lap that got him up to the top 5. He very much deserved to be there.
Battle for the lead starting to brew once again as Daniel Falkingham, he got past Zach Novak and is now starting to challenge Jake Nichols. Was peeking down to the inside, actually got side by side with him in turns 3 and 4. Got right to the back bumper off of exit, but Nichols was able to pull away, and now Falkingham trying to regain some of this ground that he lost on the front straightaway. We'll see through turns 3 and 4 if he's able to peek down to the inside. There he goes with Jake Nichols all the way up top. Big send on the entry for Falkingham, but when you get that good of a run on the entry, it usually means you're going to lose it on the exit of the corner.
Yeah, you've got to pay back somewhere, but Falkingham is alongside just as they go over the stripe, and this time round they're door-to-door into 1 and 2. This is good opening run speed here from Daniel Falkingham, who just misses the low line. If he was aiming to stick on the white line there, then he missed it, and Nichols will roll through on the outside to regain the lead.
Falkingham looking down to the inside. And again, we know that these long side-by-side runs are sustainable. This is what we saw last year at Kansas as well between Parker White and Daniel Buttafuoco for felt like 30 or 40 laps, but was the race of the year and really the battle of the year was really impressive last year right before the midsummer break. And hoping to see some more of that today as Jake Nichols and Daniel Falkingham looking to put on a show right now. Falkingham hasn't been able to get alongside. I thought when he was able to side draft down the front straightaway, he'd get enough of a run. This is similar to what we saw earlier today, but just couldn't quite do it. And we'll try, but just isn't quite there yet. About a half a car length off the back bumper of the 63.
I think he's finding it difficult to pass when Nichols is hogging the outside line like that. You know, when Falkingham's on this middle line here, I think he's just going to struggle to get the exit that he really needs, and the gain in terms of distance is just not enough there on the middle. So if I was, well, I guess he won't be that desperate to lead right now because we are early on in the day, but I would maybe think about just trimming the white line maybe when he's trying to pass Nichols here, just trying to shorten that distance, just try and get through any way that you can. But Nichols tries to take his line away there by running the middle himself. Not sure I would have done that if I was the leader there. Just keep running your line up top. It seems to be working for the moment. He's trying to take the line away from Falkingham though. Now that's given him a chance to get alongside again.
To that rear tire, Falkingham has the advantage, but here comes Jake Nichols with a huge run down the back straightaway, side by side going into turn number 3. Nichols pulls back even with the number 39 down on the inside. However, Falkingham's getting such a good run through the corner. It's really just that momentum that Nichols gets by running the top that's allowed him to stay even, but that advantage is dwindling, and Nichols is going to have to side draft or something if he wants to pull back even with him. Falkingham's going to have an opportunity to maybe get clear, but I think Nichols is holding strong too well on that outside for Falkingham to do so. Down the backstretch once again, it's Nichols with the advantage for now.
That was really close. Off of the corner, by the way, as the two nearly made contact. This is on board with Novak. Zach Novak, who's really gained some time as a result of this, finished second last week at Texas, by the way. This kind of run was absolutely his bread and butter last week. Early on in this run, he just seemed to be losing time to these two, but now they're side by side. He's caught up. He now takes the high side as well, takes Nichols' line, and this is going to be bad news for Falkingham as they come off the corner. Novak's going to push Nichols, and Falkingham's going to go backwards.
And Novak right in tow with Jake Nichols. Can he make it 3 wide through the middle? looking and thinking about it, but actually going to carve it all the way down to the inside. And Falkingham going to try to wash up, has the lead for now. Here comes Novak with a massive run down the front straightaway. Will take the lead at the stripe and will get clear of Daniel Falkingham. Gets 2 for 1. And Zach Novak now goes to the lead. Daniel Falkingham under attack from Jake Nichols on that outside. And if they start battling too much, it's going to allow Zach Novak to start to pull away.
Sounds like a bit of a silly thing to say, but that was an excellent use of gravity from Zach Novak there, just to pull down low off of turn 3 and 4 to get the run on Falkingham and Nichols. He was a little bit fortunate that Falkingham didn't try and block him there on the apron, but I guess it's a bit early in the race for those kind of blocks. And so Zach Novak was able to take it 3 wide and take the lead as well. And very quickly that sorted Falkingham and Nichols' battle. So Falkingham has now got past the 63, but unfortunately he is still second.
It's Novak, Falkingham, and Jake Nichols, 1, 2, 3. Then about 3/10 back of that group is Joe Armstrong. Dylan Basin completes your top 5.
And this is still on board with Nichols, just up ahead, watching and waiting for maybe another opportunity here. Is Falkingham going to be able to get alongside Novak here, or are they going to ride around for a little while? Top 4 are now absolutely together. The whole field's a lot closer to the lead now because of the battle for the lead that we were just watching. Here comes Armstrong on the backstretch.
And Armstrong with a lot of momentum as well. It's down to the inside of Jake Nichols. And Jake Nichols goes from the lead to now in 4th as Joe Armstrong's able to complete that pass. 25 laps in the books from Kansas. Zach Novak, Daniel Falkingham, Joe Armstrong, Jake Nichols, and Dylan Basin at your top 5. We'll step aside for a moment. We'll come back with more Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series racing from Kansas. Joe Armstrong's ascent has continued under the brake. He got past Daniel Falkingham for the 2nd position and now is making a challenge for the lead side by side with Zach Novak down the backstretch. That 022 has been the fastest car on the racetrack, trying to complete the pass this time in 3 and 4.
Fastest car in qualifying, showing itself to be the fastest over the first 30 laps, although it didn't take off quite as well in the first 10-15 as maybe would have liked. Got off to a horrible start, as we commented at the time. Really just slid away from the line rather than got away properly. He's now on the inside, though. Novak in the wall again. Not the first time that's happened as Armstrong tries to take the lead.
Novak trying to hold strong on this outside lane, but steps out. Big save from the 49. Almost lost it off the corner there. That opens the door for the number 11, Dylan Basin, who peeks down to the inside, looking right behind Joe Armstrong. Going to take the second spot away as Novak continues to struggle with the handling on that 49. Really seems to have gone away from him here in the last 5 laps or so.
Yeah, it does. He's found himself in the wall during the break as well. Not significantly, but he was scraping along it slightly on the way towards turn number 1. We saw it just a lap ago as well in live pictures. Basin now going for the lead. In fact, really low line from him. Armstrong sort of taking that lowish middle, if I'm going to call it. And Basin is even lower than him. So these two really close now at the end of the first 30 laps. They're now the strongest in the field. It's changing so quickly as to who's quickest in the field.
Yeah, lots of change, really. I mean, and Dylan Basin looking to be the newest member to take the lead. Looking down to the inside on Armstrong now, but can't plant the nose of that race car as it looks like it'll slip up off of turn number 2, and Armstrong will have the momentum. And that's the problem when you try to go all the way down like that. You can really lose the front end of the car and start to push on exit, and that was what happened to Dylan Basin, but he'll try the same thing again here in 3 and 4. However, again, same technique, same result as Armstrong clears him for the lead.
Still able to just keep that lead in front. And the impressive thing right now for these two actually is that they're not actually losing time to the rest of them behind in battling like this. So this is really strong pace from these two. And they are putting distance between themselves and Zach Novak and Daniel Falkingham, who are now battling again, this time for third place. Further backwards, Nichols is still losing places, by the way. He's now battling for 8th as Basin goes for the lead again.
And Joe Armstrong doing a great job to squeeze him down to the inside. He can't get that momentum off the corner, and that's where Joe Armstrong completes these passes. So Basin, I mean, just maybe needs to take a second and reset here and collect himself, get another charge going, and that's what he'll do is he'll go back up to the outside. And we'll see if he can get a good enough run to maybe make a challenge at the opposite end of the racetrack, but it wasn't working in its previous form. However, Basin now on the outside, maybe has something different cooking up.
He's trying things. The high line's working okay. Can he just stay alongside? Oh no, he can't. He's in the wall. Got a little bit loose off of turn 4, and he won't be trying that again anytime soon. That was really loose off of 4, and he found the fence there. Armstrong will lead by 1/4 of a second.
Yeah, and Armstrong, it gives him a little bit of breathing room not to stare down his mirror and look at this 11, which was just hard charging. And now even further back, you can see these two have driven themselves away from the rest of the field. Falkingham under attack from Seth Knoll and Zach Novak. This is about a second back from the main group, but Novak looking 3 wide on Seth Knoll and Daniel Falkingham, who are side by side off turn 4 here.
Scott is coming through here, all kinds of, well, where's he going to go? Apron maybe? It's going to have to wait for now, but this is all getting close for 3rd place, and further on in the background you can see as well, so many groups on the track right now where there are just battles everywhere. There's lines all over the place, drivers trying all sorts of different things. It's carnage out there in certain places, and certain drivers who started towards the front are going backwards. Nichols now, who started on the front, Jake Nichols, who started on the front row, is now outside the top 10.
Yeah, handling gone away on that race car, but you know who has really started to come alive is Kwame Scott, who has passed Daniel Falkingham for the 3rd spot here, up 35 positions since the drop of the green flag. However, caution on the racetrack. There's one car around on the front straightaway. It's Sean Conklin.
Started relatively close to the front, so I'd imagine that this was in front of the whole field, but doesn't look like it's being collected. Looks like we're about to see some good avoiding driving for everybody. Conklin started just outside the top 20, so around the midfield. And I suspect we're about to see half the field having to swerve to avoid him as he went off through turn 4. We'll see whether this is a solo incident or whether there was help here.
Looks like gonna be a safety caution as Sean Conklin here just loses it.
Going either side. Well done from everybody behind. About 20 of them behind him there, who all had to come past either side, and caution will fly, or the 54 car. And that's the end of a decent green flag run of about 36 laps or so. Gives us a good indication of who's going to be strong towards the end, if that pattern, that trend you were noticing from earlier this season is going to continue.
Yeah, and it comes at a good time, is right at about 40 laps. This splits stage 1 in half. So we'll see who comes down the pit lane, who opts to stay out. However, I think it's going to be a pretty busy place. Looks like Joe Armstrong, Dylan Basin, Kwame Scott. A little bit of contact between Falkingham and Scott.
There was, yeah. They're all slowing down for the line as quickly as possible. But, yeah, this is going to be about who doesn't pit rather than who does, because I suspect every single driver will be on the lane here. Let's see.
You're looking to see if we see any trickery, but got to imagine it's going to be a...
Ooh.
Did Falkingham miss his box?
Either that or he just didn't pit. He drove through the lane, but he didn't stop.
I think he missed his box. Trouble for Daniel Falkingham. Meanwhile, Kwame Scott going to win the race off pit road. He'll beat out Joe Armstrong, Seth Knoll, Zach Novak, and Jonathan Cutlip. But we will sort through the aftermath of these pit stops on the other side of a quick message from our sponsors. Jake Pullen stayed out. He'll lead the field to green. Kwame Scott, Joe Armstrong, Seth Knoll, and Ryan Doucette complete your top 5. Green flag back in the air, and Pullen will just pull off, leaving Joe Armstrong and Kwame Scott side by side down into turn 1 with Seth Knoll right close behind.
It does beg the question what Pullen was doing staying out in the first place, but there you go, pulls off to the left-hand side and gives the leaders the chance to race away. Goodness me, that was close. Kwame Scott there very nearly with contact as Armstrong just pulled up to the high side off of turn 2.
Big move from Zach Novak down to the bottom side of the racetrack, right to the white line, excuse me. It gets past Seth Knoll. Ryan Doucette going to use his draft and pull down to the inside now, try to challenge for the 3rd position. Meanwhile, Kwame Scott trying to run down Joe Armstrong.
High side for Scott and right on the white line for Armstrong. Can Scott get alongside? That would be, the first sign of a move. Not quite. Contact in the background, meanwhile.
Oh, and a little bit of... I think they went around a little further in the back. Daniel Falkingham, I heard him over the radio. Yeah. Looks like Alexander Van de Sant, tough start to his race today. Gets worse as a little bit of contact puts us under the 2nd caution of stage number 1.
This looks like a chain reaction to me from the front. So it will have all started up there. Well, this wouldn't have helped. 4 wide. Van der Sant not quite giving 3 cars widths on the outside. And he's the one who goes around. A remarkable lack of damage for each car, actually. They should all get away with that.
Rael Falla in that group as well. Looks like Ashley Kolnick, she had an evasive maneuver down to the inside.
Again, nobody majorly hurt from that, so only Van der Sant will be sent to the back of the field, and he'll have to redo some of the overtakes he's been making over the last few laps. But another one we got away with, really. Further up front, I did see someone driving down the apron actually as well after that chain reaction I was talking about, just outside the top 10. So there we go. Not too many inside the top positions who are really affected, and unfortunately set further back. Even he takes one step forward and unfortunately 2 steps back straight afterwards at the moment in this race.
And yeah, so we didn't really get a chance to sort through the fallout of what happened there last caution on pit road, but yes, Daniel Falkingham did miss his box on the pit lane, had to come back down 1 lap later, started in 27th on the restart, which is where he currently finds himself. Meanwhile, up at the front, Kwame Scott has taken the lead over from Joe Armstrong. Zach Novak, Ryan Doucette had a great stop. Everybody took 4 tires, so no trickery in that facet. Seth Knoll here as well. So again, interesting stuff. Was, you know, maybe on this next green flag run, really wondering what we see. I think, like you said, the dichotomy between some of the short and long run cars, like we saw a few guys start to come alive, especially after about 25 laps, 30 laps into the run. But, you know, there were hard chargers that were, you know, right off the initial start. Guys like Jake Nichols, who, you know, over the course of that run just kind of fell apart. So I wonder if we see them stay back there now that they're in traffic, or if they can climb their way back up here on this restart.
Yeah, I think that was something interesting actually from Nichols. I was trying to work out that whether it is that car going backwards now because it's in traffic and struggling a bit more now, or whether it's because that long run was going on and continuing on as it was. So we'll have to see whether Nichols can take off well off this restart here and use some short run speed again. But it's again so interesting to see the differences between the cars in terms of long run and short run speed. I think Kwame Scott is a bit of an oddball to throw into this one now, because after starting well outside the top 15, or just outside the top 15 should I say, for the actual start of the race, we didn't really get to see what Scott could do off the front of the field from the start of a run like this. So we'll see what happens with that car, and also see as we get towards the stage whether we go green all the way there, because this has very much been 2 cautions to split this stage in half. We'll see whether it's going to be a more caution-filled end to stage 1.
And that was what we did a really good job with on the initial launch, was settling in and everybody kind of finding their groove outside of that contact with Alexander Van de Sant. But we'll see here how this race continues to play out. Green flag back in the air. It's Kwame Scott, Joe Armstrong who lead us back to the green flag here on lap 45. Novak all the way up to the outside wall. Don't know if he wanted to get that high up. Meanwhile, Kwame Scott, Joe Armstrong side by side. Armstrong with the advantage. Doucette clears himself off the nose of Novak. Now Doucette looks down to the inside on the number 93 into turns number 3 and 4.
That's 2 drivers we didn't see running up towards the front to begin with in this race, but now are going to get a chance to show what they can do. Same for Kerr as well, who's up inside that top 5 now at the expense of Seth Knoll and Wilkerson as well, who's climbing through the field. It's another one of those drivers who had good short run speed off the start, but now has another chance on the restart after a long first run here in the 43 car.
Armstrong up to the outside. Kwame Scott's going to have a monster run down the back straightaway into turn number 3. The 93 will poke out in front just for a moment. Meanwhile, Doucette, Novak side by side as they continue to try to sort that battle out. Kwame Scott going to be clear for the lead off of turn number 4.
Immediately just takes that lower line as well to almost block Armstrong there on the inside. Doucette on the outside of Armstrong now as well. Novak follows Armstrong down low, as do most of the top 10.
Scott, Doucette, Armstrong, Novak, Kerr as they run off of turn number 2. And approaching 30 laps to go in stage number 1, and everybody's been given kind of a fresh start And I'm interested to see, especially from some of these guys a little further back. Zach Kurz had a very strong run, running down Zach Novak right now for the 4th spot. And then meanwhile, calming down up at the front while it's just insanity back here a little further back. 3-4 wide around guys like Dylan Basin. Daniel Falkingham's one that I've been keeping my eye on since the drop of the green flag as he just continues to pick guys off. You can see just craziness going on back here.
This is madness back here. Have I forgotten how Basin found himself back here, by the way? Or did something go on in the pit stop phase that we've not seen? Because he was running inside the top 10 early on as well, even further up than that. But now he finds himself in a right mess down here.
Yeah, no, I mean, Basin was up inside the top 5 and just on that restart, or on that pit stop, had a slow stop. And, I mean, I think he got held for a penalty, it looks like. So, and he's going to go around almost off the quarter panel of Daniel Falkingham.
Wow.
And he'll have to recollect that. And there goes that track position he had made back up. But yes, it was a pit road penalty for Dylan Basin. Another consequence of that first stop under that first caution flag.
I was just going to speculate on whether he was repairing any damage when he hit the wall off of 4, but no, that probably clears that one up with a penalty. So yeah, it did a lot of that work to get through the field and back towards the front where he was before, but all that's been undone now. He's actually right down towards the back. Everybody's on the lead lap, by the way, so he's right at the back of the field now and has got an awful lot of work to do. He's not been able to follow Falkingham, doing a fantastic job coming through the field. Now up to 13th already, now 12th.
Falkingham continuing to pick cars off one by one, now past Connor Horn, running down Seth Knoll, who was just up inside the top 5, finds himself outside of the top 10 now. Meanwhile, one car on an absolute heater right now is 3rd place, Nate Stewart. We haven't even talked about him breaking into the top 5, but he was able to get around Zach Novak, able to get around Joe Armstrong, and is putting down the fastest laps on the racetrack. Was 0.3 faster than Kwame Scott last time by, and now right on the back bumper of Ryan Doucette for the 2nd position.
Another new contender to throw into the mix here. We've had a revolving cast of different names now up towards the front. We've had Armstrong leading, Novak as well. They've probably been the 2 most stable inside the top 5, but so many new names coming to the fore now. Kwame Scott, Doucette and Stewart all now up towards the front, whereas they weren't in the first run. Here comes Stewart around the outside. This is going to be 2nd place up to the line.
And Nate Stewart just flying around this joint right now. Kwame Scott was 0.2 slower than that number 15, and that gap is just about 2 car lengths now. So Kwame Scott going to be having to watch that mirror for the 15 and 8 Stewart, who is, again, just on a heater right now, putting incredible laps together, lap after lap, and he's going to be right all over the back bumper. Kwame Scott going to take the line away from Nate Stewart, who's been doing so well on the high side off turn number 4. We'll see if Stewart can pivot.
I don't think Stewart was quite expecting that either. It seemed to be really knocked off course by Scott taking that line away up towards the top of the banking. So will Stewart go low now? No, Scott stays high, taking that line away from Stewart. But look, even there, can just manoeuvre a little bit to the middle and try and get a better run. Not this time though. Scott's done a good job of defending so far.
And now Scott will go to the middle of the racetrack. Stewart all the way up against that outside wall. And the 15 should get a good run off of turn number 4 here. We'll see where it takes him if he can get back to that back bumper of the number 93. However, still in tow. Scott on the high side. And Nate Stewart's peaking just a little bit to try to get air to the front end of that race car, give a little bit more front downforce.
I thought in towards 3 and 4 last time, I thought Scott thought that Stewart was going to go to the middle, and that's why he chose that line. Now he suspects he's going to stay up high, but Stewart goes to the middle. Now, can he get that speed that he's got up top in the middle here? He can get alongside. Now maybe, is he going to be able to pull through? Absolutely, door to door over the line.
Side by side and into turn number 1. Kwame Scott going to back off of entrance. Nate Stewart going to slide all the way up to that high groove. Kwame will make a run down to the inside, but not going to be enough. Nate Stewart now clear for the lead.
Is Scott going to go back to the low side where he was comfortable before, or is he going to try and continue chasing him around the track? Doucette now on the inside. They're going to be 3 wide nearly off of turn 4, not quite. Stewart's still going to be clear.
At the stripe, Nate Stewart, Kwame Scott, and Ryan Doucette, 1, 2, 3, right under a blanket with each other right now, and Doucette chasing down the number 93. Who is running that middle groove again, trying to get to the quarter panel of Nate Stewart, but just too much drive off for that 15 right now. I think he's going to need a slip up because Nate Stewart's car, I mean, just so dominant on that high side right now.
Yeah, looking really good. And it's difficult to know what you can do to stop that now that he's in the lead. When Kwame Scott was out front, you know, you could see the vision, try and take that line away and try and just stall his momentum for a little bit so that he can stay in front. But now that he's in front, not sure what you do with Stewart. Right now, I certainly don't think following him up high there is going to be the best way to get through, but nobody seems good enough in the middle or on the low side to actually get past him for now.
I think if you can diamond the corner maybe, and that's what Ryan Doucette just did, where you enter in low, drift up the racetrack, and then carve it back down off an entrance to get that momentum. I mean, could be a viable strategy here if you're Kwame Scott, but it just depends on where your car handles the best, and Doucette's happy doing that, but Kwame Scott, I mean, might not be as comfortable driving that way, so just difficult to try to figure out. Meanwhile, Zach Kerr even attacking for the 3rd position. Here comes Joe Armstrong, and just like that, going to be 3 wide for the 3rd spot.
Oh, Doucette has got to be careful there, and Armstrong's just going to pull him beside him, or behind him, I should say, and he'll get through. Kerr's going to go backwards. Falkingham now is right in the battle. He's got a good car in traffic, that's for sure. We've seen that now after he missed his pit box during that last, or that first caution, I should say. He is now back in the top 5. What a great display of how that car can manoeuvre in traffic.
And Daniel Falkingham, I mean, really impressive since the drop of the green flag. I mean, that was only 20 or so laps ago, to work from the mid-20s all the way now to the top 5 and soon to be challenging for the lead. He's going to be in contention for this stage win. So really impressive drive. I think the question now becomes, did he have to burn his tires up to get here?
Yeah, well, that is one of the big questions, and if he has, then he might well be hoping for a caution in the next few moments, but he is one of those drivers I saw earlier who ran the low side really well, and I'm thinking maybe he's one of those drivers who can get in front of Stewart, who looks pretty unpenetrable at the moment up top. Here comes Kwame Scott again, trying to give it another go.
Side by side between the first 2 rows, Nate Stewart and Kwame Scott side by side, but they duck into line. Doucette and Joe Armstrong as well. Armstrong does not have the positioning he did just a corner or so ago. He'll get there side by side, but I don't think he's going to be able to hang there. Meanwhile, Kwame Scott almost will be side by side actually with Nate Stewart. Nate Stewart will side draft him down the front straightaway, and that'll open the door for 3rd place Ryan Doucette to maybe peek his nose in here through turns 1 and 2. Now Armstrong down to the inside, trying to take the 3rd spot away. Both of these guys maybe monitoring these up front cars right now, seeing if they can get anywhere. Nate Stewart a little bit sideways. Doucette follows as well.
Oh, Scott gets in front of Stewart, so he's going to be boxed in now, and that run at the front where he was looking so strong has come to an end. He's in the wall through 3 and 4. They're all coming past him now. Stewart's short run at the front is over.
Kwame Scott takes the lead away. Ryan Doucette, Joe Armstrong all here as well. And Kwame Scott has maybe a moment to breathe before Ryan Doucette goes all the way up to the high side. We'll put that right rear right on the wall, and we'll have a big run down the back straightaway. He'll duck down to the inside. Side by side for the lead. We'll take it away from Kwame Scott just like that. Ryan Doucette now clear for the lead.
He's doing that thing again where he enters low, exits middle. Oh, he's just trying to get in front of Scott, but can't do it. Scott's going to just get another lap led at the line by a nose, and Doucette is going to enter fast again, you'd imagine, on the low side here, in towards 1 and 2. Try and take that lead away. Can he slide up in front of Scott? No, again, and here comes Armstrong.
Oh, Joe Armstrong's going to get right on the quarter panel. Ryan Doucette, They make contact just for a moment. Doucette able to gather it back up. Kwame Scott going to be able to drive away from that, though. And now Armstrong and Doucette side by side for 2nd. But here comes Doucette once again. Going to have a run on the high side down the front straightaway, but won't be able to get back alongside Kwame Scott. And we'll have to let it come back to him just a little bit as Kwame Scott takes control of the race lead.
how long is he going to get this control for, though, because we've only seen leaders really lead for 10-15 laps at most. It's been really changeable out front, and again you're seeing it here. Doucette almost into the back of Scott. Armstrong right there as well, driving to the low side.
And now Joe Armstrong really driving it in on entry. Doucette's going to have a monster runoff exit, though. He did that just about perfect. Got to the back bumper of Kwame Scott, but Kwame, with a really defensive line, was able to steal that momentum back away. Will take the lead once again, but Joe Armstrong really wants a piece of it here.
Outside for Doucette. Are the other two on the low side just going to take each other out of this? Or is Doucette going to get boxed in? Oh, there's just enough space. Doucette side by side for the lead with a good chance now up top.
And don't count out Daniel Falkingham of this group as well. These three battling for the lead could open the door for that number 39 and maybe even back to Zach Novak. Meanwhile, Ryan Doucette able to drive by on the high side, takes the lead away from Kwame Scott. Here comes Armstrong, here comes Falkingham, all getting jumped in line.
Just like what happened to Stewart, who's down to 9th, by the way. A relatively short-lived lead for Kwame Scott could turn into a short-lived stint inside the top 10 if he's not careful. Outside for Falkingham, he goes through. Zach Novak starting to drive his way in here, using that long-run speed. He's now looking to get past Scott as well, as Armstrong tries to take that lead away from Doucette again. By the way, we've just crossed over 100 laps to go here. We've got a very, very long way to go.
And even more impending than the end of the race is the end of stage 1, which is just over 10 laps away. And these guys all battling for those points that are awarded at the end of lap 80. So Ryan Doucette trying to hold on for another 10 laps or so, but easier said than done with Joe Armstrong behind, who's been just so rapid all race long. Was the pole sitter, obviously, but had a stint out front, and now wants the lead back again from the 077. This Waste Management Toyota Camry's been so good on the long run, and we saw that in the first stint.
Again, though, the leader on the outside is looking pretty unbeatable as things stand. If you can get a good run together, you're at the middle or the high side, it's difficult to go lower and actually make the pass unless you've got a really good car. It looks like Armstrong has got that, though. That was really good speed on the sort of highest low line, I'll call it, and he's got a nose in front now on the way towards 3 and 4.
Ryan Doucette trying to hold on here. Armstrong with a very formidable run, but Ryan Doucette on that high lane, again, just able to drive past him. However, Joe Armstrong, if he gets here, could side draft Doucette back and take away some of this advantage. This is similar to what we saw very early on, kind of with Daniel Falkingham. You're able to just whittle that advantage down lap by lap the longer you stay side by side. We'll see if Armstrong can get here once again. No, Doucette will be able to clear him.
I thought he'd have the chance that time because first time round he wasn't even alongside before turn 1 and he nearly got past. I thought if he'd be alongside on the way into turn 1 that time, he'd be able to get through, but no luck this time either. Doucette gets clear even on the way over the line this time, so Armstrong tucks into line. Now he'll have Zach Novak closing behind as well as Daniel Falkingham. And Kwame Scott, who's very much stemmed the tide here. Oh, it's in the fence! Doucette in the wall!
And caution flag is out. David L. Brown went around on the front straightaway. And we will get a restart before the end of stage number 1. Try to take a look at what happened to David L. Brown, and we haven't talked about him much today, but currently sitting second in points.
Yeah, was 14 behind Falkingham, by the way, who is the leader. Seems to have been around here. Didn't get off to the best start even in qualifying earlier, by the way. Brown, as we said at the time, this is what happened. Oh, it's someone in front of him getting in the fence before he spun around.
Eric LeBombard, it looked like it was, hit the outside wall, and then Gabriel Dahari underneath him. Just the perfect storm to send David L. Brown around.
Yeah, it's not a lot you can do there if you're David L. Brown, unfortunately. Spins around quite a lot of times, actually, in the grass. And he will probably take some new tyres from the back. But who out the front is going to take new tyres for the final run to the end of the stage?
Yeah, an interesting scenario here. We'll see if anybody, I'd say like 15th on back could potentially be worth it if you could hang on. But all these leaders, yeah, going to come down to the pit lane for fresh rubber and fuel.
Everybody's in. Almost everybody. I mean, surely someone's going to try it, but Almost everybody's in. Don't forget, in this series, there's no caution straight after the stage, which is probably a good thing, but it does mean that you're less likely to take the risk and stay out, because if we get an 80-lap run after this, they could be in trouble.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, be almost a death sentence for you, but we'll see. Ryan Doucette is off. And Joe Armstrong could not beat Ryan Doucette off. So as they run, it'll be Doucette, Armstrong, Novak, Falkingham, Kwame Scott, your top 5.
Stewart had a terrible stop based on what we just saw there. Nate Stewart, well outside of the top 20 now, but if I've got that correct, seemed to have a bit of a slow stop. So that's one of the drivers who was really quick in the short run there. He might have had a chance here at getting some points. Has gone backwards. And we'll have a look at what happened here. He's in the 15 car. They're all very close to one another on the way into the lane. I've always wondered why they don't hit each other more often, to be honest. But anyway, we're about to see maybe why now. As Stewart pulls into the box, left-hand side, just after the cut through there. And just really slow on the way in. It's after his stop, maybe. Let's see. Looks fairly normal so far, to be honest. All tyres. That's what happens.
Oh.
Spun up the rears on the way out, and again, nobody hit him, so only cost himself there. He'll be a long, long way back now, though.
Meanwhile, back up at the front, believe we had a choose cone violation from Kwame Scott, who was inside the top 5, now dropping to the rear of the field. Another update for you as it is Eric Lombard, as a result of wreck score, was parked after that last incident. Ashley Kolonix, another one, she will be going to the rear of the field, if I heard the radio chatter correctly.
We'll take a look. Not many off the lead lap, by the way, so if you are sent to the very back of the field, you're losing all of those positions on the restart. 5 to go to the stage.
Gonna be a fun one here. Ryan Doucette, Joe Armstrong, everybody with fresh tires. Gonna be a green flag run back to the end of the stage. Ryan Doucette leads us off. Brian Mercurio up in the top 5, giving a huge shove to Joe Armstrong on that bottom lane as they go down into turn number 1.
No surprise Doucette chose the outside, but a bit surprised he decided to pull down low there, maybe try and take the line away from Armstrong a little bit. Novak looked like he was the one really on the outside here. They come off to 2. Let's hope we get a green flag run to the stage at least, as it's side by side for the lead.
All bets are off now as Ryan Doucette almost hits the outside wall, makes a little bit of contact. Joe Armstrong able to slide up in front of him, gets sideways, opens the door for Daniel Falkingham. Now Armstrong blocking the number 39, 3 cars under a blanket for the lead.
Falkingham has got a really good short run speed as well as long run speed. Got a really good car here tonight, and he's going to try and use that to take the stage win. Although he's blocked in at the moment, Armstrong in front of him. Now Doucette is blocked by Armstrong.
Joe Armstrong doing a fantastic job at managing these lanes. However, going to lose the advantage as Doucette able to get side by side with them through turns number 3 and 4. Armstrong trying to clear him again off exit. Won't happen though. Here comes Doucette.
Watch for Falkingham, 3 wide. He was going to go to the apron there. 3 to go, and he's going to go for the lead on the low side. He's got a really good car down there, and he fires it in, trying to block Doucette.
Little bit of slide job action. Can't get it done, though, as Doucette hits him with the crossover. Here comes Zach Novak. Now 4 cars in this group. Seth Knoll going to join the party as well. Falkingham has the advantage. Doucette alongside him. Now Falkingham starting to drive away a little bit off the exit of the corner.
Watch out for turn 4 again. Novak got super close to Armstrong, I think it was at the time there, off of turn 2 last time round. So far, they've stayed away from contact. 2 to go until the end of the stage. This is going to be fantastic. No, look at Seth Knoll coming through now in the 1 car into the top 5.
Down the backstretch, it's Daniel Falkingham leading Zach Novak, who takes 2nd place away from Ryan Doucette. Seth Knoll has put his hat in the ring, now entering the 3rd spot. Out of turn number 4, white flag in stage number 1 for the number 39 of Daniel Falkingham.
It looks like to me he's got the speed here. He's got Carlance in behind. The battles are going to be for the points behind. King went off into the grass that time.
He saves it though. We stay green. Daniel Falkingham with the 2/10 advantage over Novak. We'll see if he can mount a charge on the backstretch here.
I think he's too far away. Falkingham has got a really, really good car. Don't forget, not that long ago, he missed his pit box entirely on lap 40. He's come all the way back through to take the stage win here.
An incredible drive in stage number 1 for Daniel Falkingham. He gets it done and wins in stage number 1. It's Seth Knoll over Zach Novak in 2nd and 3rd. Ryan Doucette 4th. Brian Mercurio in 5th. Joe Armstrong, Jake Nichols, Kevin McAdams, Michael P. Frisch, and Jacob Wilkerson round out your top 10 in stage number 1. We stay green and keep trucking.
That was stage racing at its best, wasn't it? Fantastic 5-lap run to the finish. And I think a better rule that we've got in this series than we have in real life. We stay green racing afterwards as well. That's exactly how stage racing should be conducted. We've got just around 86 to go now.
And again, this stage coming right at about the halfway point.
Here comes Seth Knoll. Inside for turn 3, and he's going to get through on Falkingham just when it doesn't matter anymore who's leading, particularly for the stage. Seth Knoll takes it and will lead his first lap of the day, I think, just about. Maybe Falkingham's going to get into the line.
Yeah, Falkingham with a little too much momentum gets that side draft and clears Seth Knoll once again. Thought Seth Knoll had enough of a gap there to lead that lap, but not quite. Knoll will go all the way back up to the high side. And Falkingham, a big block here. Knoll will cross him back over and get down to the inside.
So this could go on for some time, but Knoll looks like he's desperate to lead, and now he's going to take the line away, but it doesn't seem to matter to Falkingham. He can just change lane through mid-corner here, and he gets a good run. Not quite as good as last time, though. And now, 1 lap behind schedule, Seth Knoll does lead his first lap of the day.
Falkingham was all over the back bumper there, and we'll go up all the way to the high side. And yeah, I mean, the theme of this race, it feels like through 80 laps, lots of comers and goers, and Seth Knoll, the latest to join the category of race leaders so far.
I've lost count of how many I've got. I don't know if you have kept count, but I've lost count. There's been so many. It's been like a revolving door out front at the moment. So many different drivers out front who weren't before. And 1 point, by the way, on Frisch, by the way, Michael P. Frisch, who's tied 2nd in points alongside David L. Brown, who we saw have trouble earlier on today. Right when it matters, how's this for a championship driver, by the way? Right when it matters, started way down, was not very particularly working his way through quickly earlier on. But when it mattered, he was inside the top 10 for the stage. That's exactly a championship points driver right there.
Yeah, and this is a format I think that'll favor Michael P. Frisch, who I believe only picked up 1 win last year at Gateway, and I mean, has been just killing it so far this year. And this is, I mean, just been a great season so far for him, as he sits 3rd in the point standings right now. Seth Knoll and Falkingham were trading the lead back and forth again. Falkingham was able to take it back, but this is where craziness has been. My goodness. Looks like Kwame Scott that was stepped out. But I mean, Dylan Basin here. It's Garrett Conrath in this group. Christian Kindle, Ryan Hunter. Just a squabble of cars. 13th on back.
Yeah, maybe you could even extend it to 8th on back, to be honest. Wilkerson is not that far away from these guys. Oh, they're not quite as side-by-side back here, up there, I suppose, as they are back here. But this is where the battling really is in the midfield. You can certainly start to see now as we just go over 10 laps. It's the first time we've really, had some longish green flag running in a little while now. And hopefully that can continue on a little bit. You just notice the speed coming down a little bit here. Once the proximity of the stage has gone away, now all of a sudden you look at the top and you see 81 to go, now 80 to go, not 5 to go to the stage. You start to think that, you've still got a very long way to go in this race. And of course the tyres will start to go away from them now as well. And they'll start to look even visibly slower than what we saw on that run to the 80 lap mark.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you absolutely feel the energy of the race has changed. I mean, at the end of the stage, the intensity was palpable. Like, everybody was firing on all cylinders, and now it's relaxed a lot more. You're not seeing the crazy blocks or the crazy moves. Everybody just kind of running their own race once again to just get it home for the next 79 laps. And you see a lot more of that, especially again with the change in the points format, where it's not winning you're in like it used to be. You see a lot more guys using their heads and just being a little more level-headed to come home with a good points day.
Yeah, and I like that as well. The fact that you've got to be strong over the year in terms of points. Of course, with the amount of races that you get in series, it's good to have some sort of mechanism to keep them close together with the chase-offs we've got later on in the season. And I think that's a good thing still to have. But the fact that winning your is not a thing is, I personally think, a good thing. I mean, you don't get people throwing themselves all over the place to try and win races, risking life and limb, as it were, to try and win one of the races. You just get drivers trying to more consistently drive for points, and that's a much more accurate reflection of how the season has gone in terms of whoever's going to be the champion. We're going to look back and think, yeah, they were strong across the season and they deserve to be the champion at the end of this year.
Another battle for the lead here as Ryan Doucette sends it in big time, almost up into the outside wall, reminiscent of Carl Edwards and Jimmy Johnson here 15 or so years ago. It was a big send from Ryan Doucette. Falkingham will get back down to the inside, though, side by side. And Doucette, this car has been so strong on the top line all night long, and Daniel Falkingham under attack now, trying to get that lead back where he was so comfortable.
When I saw Doucette flying into turn one like that, I thought there's no way that's going to work, and surely he's just going to be passed again, but it has. And Falkingham didn't have an answer on the way to 3 and 4, so Doucette returns to the lead again. But you're starting to see these long-run cars come to the fore again here. Armstrong and Novak now getting closer in. The others behind starting to fall away. Seth Knoll, for example, seems to have a bit of a short-run car, to be honest, rather than the longer runs that we're seeing for these four. Mercuro as well, under a lot of pressure from Michael P. Frisch, who's continuing to make up positions, now knocking on the door of a top 5.
Yeah, and tell me where you've seen this before. Struggled on the restart pretty heavily, but has started to come back alive. Past Zach Novak now is the 022 of Joe Armstrong. And in that third spot was, again, able to complete a pass on Zach Novak and is putting together laps pretty comparable with race leader Ryan Doucette now, who was just able to drive past Daniel Falkingham and take the lead away.
Based on what I've seen in this race so far, there's absolutely no reason why Joe Armstrong should have got pole, but somehow he managed it. So fair play to him for that, because so far from what I've seen of this car, it just doesn't seem to be taking off particularly great. We saw at the start of the race, he could barely get going at all. Spun up the rear tyres, all sorts, when the green flag flew for the very first time tonight. And he's got it a bit more under control now, and on these longer runs he seems a lot more comfortable. And he's been pretty consistently, as you can see here, inside the top positions. But how he got pole with this car, I'm not really sure.
It doesn't make the most sense when you consider the lack of short run speed that this car has had all night long. But you're right, as soon as the tires start to go away from everybody, you get that about 15 laps into a run or so. It's really when this car has started to come to life. So Doucette, Falkingham, Armstrong each chasing each other down. And again, all over the racetrack, things starting to calm down a little bit. Yeah,
I mean, it is 2/3 of a second the biggest lead we've seen. Doucette is really getting out to a good lead now, ahead of Falkingham. Then Armstrong and Novak. Frisch now is past Mercuro, and will be chasing these guys down as well. You can see that at the bottom of your screen there. Next in line, Kerr, Peel and Wilkerson, all nose to tail over the line. This is Wilkerson trying to get past the 12 car in towards turn 1. And just in behind him, actually, by the way, Dylan Basin is finally making up these positions. So Basin has got a decent car in the pack, it seems, but not quite as good as Falkingham, who absolutely roared past everybody to get back up to the front, almost like we'd forgotten completely that he even had that pit stop problem. He just was almost straight back up the front immediately.
Hearing that we might have a replay queued up from a few laps ago, a little deeper back in the pack, around this 12th or so spot. Looks like Ryan Hunter in the 97. Yeah, was running right outside the top 10 and put it in the wall and just got driven past by everybody here. And a tough break for him, who again was right outside the top 10 as he's struggling to hold on to that thing. and now outside the top 20 as Kevin King was able to get by him.
So, oh, he's in the wall again. Oh, no, he's just not quite in the wall. This is crashing now towards his lowest position in the field here if he's not too careful. It just seemed to me that Kwame Scott changing line ever so slightly, not changing lane entirely, but just a little bit of change of line just seemed to put him off, and he was then in the wall throughout the entirety of turn 1 and 2 there, and that seems to have given him damage based on the positions he's lost both afterwards or during that crash, I'd say, but afterwards as well.
And you saw it was Jose Solis from the 18th spot had come down the pit lane. Doesn't look like anybody is joining him anytime soon. However, it definitely something to keep an eye on here in the next couple of laps. It's been 24 laps since most of your leaders were on the pit lane, so could go probably another 10, 15 laps before you start thinking about pitting.
I would have thought, to be fair, with well, they pitted last time with about just over 90 to go. I thought that there'd be a few more drivers trying to split it in half, which would be more than 20 until they'd stop, but maybe they're going to want to get off these tyres sooner than that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it feels like everybody has been, pretty reactionary when you see guys on pit road, but Solis has been just on an island on his own, and I agree with you for the record. I think you would try to stretch this till about 45, 40 to go, somewhere in there. So that would definitely put us more in the range of in about 20, 25 laps. But we'll continue to keep an eye on it as we cross lap 100 here as Zach Novak getting underneath Joe Armstrong here. Again, this is saw Armstrong was able to get around Novak a little bit earlier, but Novak will return the favor now and complete the pass on the 022.
Two cars with very, very similar speed by the looks of it here. That's just we get up to lap 100, by the way, 67 to go. And so the four leaders are now showing themselves to be the class of the field here, really. Doucette, Falkingham, Novak and Armstrong. The battle between the others is really best of the rest here. The battle for the top 5 as Wilkerson tries the real low side here, right on the white line. Trying to get past Peel. Oh, not quite clear, but Peel got a wiggle anyway. Basin now will get to 8th place.
And one of these cars in Seth Knowles, Zach Kerr, both of these guys were up inside the top 5 earlier and have subsided now, struggling to stay in the top 10 here. As looks like Basin and Wilkerson will go side by side a little further ahead. But again, really get a sense that everybody's just completing laps and logging them off right now. Even further back in the pack where we were seeing lots of double file and 3 wide, that started to single file out as well.
It's something weird that happens to these guys after the stage, isn't it? Where it just calms down for the moment, and then, as we saw last time at Texas as well, I remember if we had 4 or 5 cautions before the stage last week, and then a long green flag run towards the end, or a couple of long green flag runs in the final half of the race. It's like we're seeing a pattern repeating itself here at Kansas this time round. It is a lot calmer than what we saw on the way to the stage, but that doesn't mean there isn't racing going on. Doucette is being caught by Falkingham, so maybe it's about to spark back into life at the front.
Well, Falkingham needs to worry about Zach Novak first, because Novak's making a big charge to the inside for the 2nd spot, and right now has enough where he could send it in if he wants to, all the way down on the inside. However, not going to be clear as Falkingham should get a runoff. No, Novak will actually be able to complete that pass and take the 2nd spot away. So Doucette, however, is struggling with the handling. Zach Novak last time by was a 10th faster than Ryan Doucette, but the lap before that it was an even larger margin. So Doucette just kind of struggling to hang on that high side.
Yeah. It's a lot more pressure than what he was under a few moments ago. 2/3 of a second, I think, was the biggest lead, maybe 3/4 of a second. Now you can see him right up next to the wall, and Novak making ground on the low side. He's not going to get the run there, Novak, but he just about can get alongside. Can he stay alongside, maybe? Side by side for the lead now.
Big move here from Zach Novak to return to the top spot. Hasn't been here in about, feels like 60 or so laps, but has been up inside that top 5 putting together a quietly good run, takes this spot away from Ryan Doucette. Zach Novak to the point in turns 3 and 4. Ryan Doucette now on the high side again, just been struggling to hang on, was 3/10 slower than Zach Novak and a 10th slower than Daniel Falkingham last time by.
So interesting that it's changing again here. It's not quite as simple as saying these front 4 are the best 4 in this field, and that's just the end of it. It's a lot more complex than that. Novak now at this stage in the race just gaining a bit of speed, and all 3 of them, look at that. Novak on the low side, Doucette next to the wall, Falkingham somewhere in the middle. So interesting to see here the different lines being taken. Again, I guess you expect to see it a little bit more from Kansas, especially when you compare it to Texas, but still great to see so many lines available for these guys.
"60 laps to go as they cross the stripe here. Zach Novak, Ryan Doucette continuing to battle it out. Daniel Falkingham under attack from Joe Armstrong, who's started to rear his head back in this top 3. And Armstrong able to get to the back bumper of Falkingham, shove him up the racetrack a little bit. Meanwhile, you see this group, and this, I mean, has been the most pressing battle on the racetrack right now. Armstrong to the inside. Falkingham looks like kind of struggling to hang on to it on that high side.
Yeah, a little bit. Again, I think that car looks most comfortable down low, to be honest, but that's just from what I've been watching, to be honest. I'm not in the car after all. Here's Armstrong inside, middle line-ish through turn 1 and 2. And again, going back to what I said earlier on, these cars just look visibly slower as things stand. The tyres going away from them right now, but they are still 15 laps away from cutting this final run, if it is going to be a final run, in half. So a long way to go yet on these tyres, and if they're already going away from you, which it looks like it is for Falkingham and maybe Armstrong as well, then they've got a long way to go on them.
Yeah, and I mean, this has become so handling based right now. I mean, Zach Novak was the fastest car on the racetrack last time by, and he was running just under 2 seconds slower than his best lap of this race. So again, these guys really having to battle the racetrack more so than each other right now, and that's why you've seen everybody get single file like this, and it seems a lot calmer because everybody's just kind of fighting their own battle with the track surface itself.
Yeah, Novak was fighting his own car out of turn 4 there. Even the race leader struggling with the rear end off of 4. Looked a little bit loose then. He got pretty close to the wall itself as well. Now takes the little bit safer middle line as Doucette stays up high. Armstrong in the middle, then Falkingham up high. And the gap from the front 4 to the rest of the field is starting to close here. So well, the front 4 themselves managed to get a big gap over the rest. Initially, as this became clear that it was going to be a long run, Kuro now just starting to reel that back in, and Falkingham could be under pressure even for that 4th place now.
Top 3 separated by a second right now. Zach Novak has driven out to a 7/10 lead over Ryan Doucette. Daniel Falkingham and Brian Mercurio able to complete your top 5 here. And again, just everybody nursing their equipment to try to get inside the window to be good to the end. And you see not a lot of side-by-side racing going on right now. First battle is between Connor Horn and Sean Conklin. This is a battle for 10th. And both of them, I mean, just, again, struggling to hang on to it.
They're all over the place here, but Horner's been gaining some good ground in these last few moments. Now inside the top 10. Oh, close. And close to the wall there for Conklin through turn 1. First of all, close to the 4 car, then to the wall. Now off of turn 2. Just with his nose in front. Conklin will stay ahead, though, on the way to 3 and 4 again. And the battle continues. It's the midfield, really, where there's lots more side-by-side happening than at the front.
And Conklin, I mean, this car is out of control. Anytime he puts the power down, it seems like the back end wants to slip out, and he's just chasing it around the racetrack right now. So this 54 going to be one to watch. Could be a potential source of trouble for us as he's in the outside wall now.
Yeah, it's just so much more difficult to control these cars now. They'll be absolutely begging for us to get to 45 to go now, and I think once we hit that mark, even 50 to go, we're going to see drivers in, and we may well have just done. No, Falkingham's just losing places, excuse me. He's just down to 6th place.
Yeah, both Dylan Basin and Brian Mercurio were able to get around him, and Jacob Wilkerson looking to join that group. Meanwhile, look at Gabriel Dahari, Brandon Cattell, and Cosmin Ionescu all back here. These guys all over each other. This is a battle for 17th. Dahari driving away from the two behind, though. Cattell and Cosmin side by side for 18th off of turn number 2. And again, same thing that we saw with Sean Conklin, where these cars are just out of control off the exit of the corner. It seems to be a common sentiment right now.
Yeah, loose off is the way to be as things stand. It's a common theme that they're all fighting with. There's some in the fence actually off of turn 4 that time as well. Just as we get to it, they start to single file out a little bit. It's the first real pit group though. Oh, and even before the corner itself, it through the tri-oval, they're getting loose here.
Lawson Peel underneath the number 80 of Cattell. Here comes Cosmin with a big run. Peel chases it all the way down, almost to the white line, and will come back into single file formation with Cosmin, who dips down to the inside underneath Cattell for the 17th spot. Cosmin trying to complete the pass here, and I believe this is a FedEx throwback as Sean Conklin comes to the pit lane a little further ahead.
12 car is all over the place, by the way. That car needs to get on pit lane pretty soon because those tyres have absolutely gone away here, and it's just going to get passed by more and more drivers if they stay out any longer here. So we'll see how long this persists now, because we are on 51 to go, and it's not unreasonable for someone to come in and hope to make it back to the end of the race without trouble. I wonder whether we are going to see a pit stop here on the low side, and yes we are. So here we go, it's going to start now.
50 laps to go and starting to see some action on the pit lane. And I mean, I have to imagine the moment you see somebody inside the top 10 come down, everybody's going to follow him, because there's just such a big discrepancy right now. Zach Novak, again, we were looking at his lap times, running almost in the 35-second bracket. Keep in mind, the best lap was in the 32.6s. So that's almost 2 seconds that you're giving up on the pit lane by staying out extra laps. So that's what I mean in that. When we see a car inside the top 10 come down, I think we'll see pretty much everybody follow suit.
Yeah, I think so, and I think Volkian might well be a good idea to get him in pretty soon as well, because he's losing time so quickly now. 5 seconds more than... Oh, and we've got car around! Wow, it was an inspired decision to stay out in the end, it turns out. Although no caution yet.
No caution yet is surprising. It's Ashley Kolinick's around, and she comes to rest. Looks like had... contact. Yeah, there is the caution. There was contact between, looked like her and Corey Carpenter, and that'll put us under caution right before green flag pit stops were scheduled to get underway.
Yeah, so those that did pit early will be absolutely finished now, unfortunately. Space car gets up speed quickly. So it just cuts the end of it there. Looked like not enough space given, or not realising there's a car on the outside when there was off of turn 4 there.
Need to get another look here.
Oh no, sorry, I completely misread that. It was 22 car getting loose that really sparked that, rather than anything else.
It looks like she was just struggling with the handling, and when it stepped out, she caught it, but Corey Carpenter was right there already on the outside wall, and those two just make contact, and Kolinick gets the worst of it. She is in 35th right now. Meanwhile, everybody else down on the pit lane. And again, we thought pit road was going to be a busy place here in a few laps, and it was, just not under green flag conditions like we assumed.
Yeah, so no green flag pit stops this afternoon for any of the drivers out front. It's only those towards the back that are going to have that displeasure or pleasure, depending on how you look at it. Up on the jacks now, 4 tyres should be taken by everybody here. You can see Doucette there in the orange and blue already rolling. Who's going to get out first, though? Zach Novak by a distance.
Novak, Armstrong, Doucette, Wilkerson, and Mercurio make up your top 5. Daniel Falkingham, Seth Knoll, Michael P. Frisch, Zach Kerr, and Dylan Basin, your top 10 from the Kansas Speedway. We'll step aside for a moment and get you back for this restart. Under 50 laps to go from the Kansas Speedway. Back for the restart here, it's Zach Novak and Joe Armstrong leading the field to the green flag. 45 laps to go from the Kansas Speedway. Ryan Doucette all over the back bumper of Armstrong. Jacob Wilkerson finds himself in the top 5 for the first time today.
What an important restart this could be. We're getting into the realm now that it could be the final restart of the day, but let's see. As Novak leads off of 2, or Armstrong rather, leads off 2, blocking either side, Novak and Doucette either side.
Armstrong up to the outside of Ryan Doucette. Zach Novak, look at Daniel Falkingham, 3 wide up the middle here. Novak quick to block it, but can't block both the 39 and the 43 of Wilkerson, who goes all the way to the apron underneath Daniel Falkingham. Joe Armstrong leads. Zach Novak and Ryan Doucette side by side. Here comes Mercurio, Falkingham, and Wilkerson still 3 wide behind.
Oh, and so Zach Novak's going nowhere here. Doucette, after pushing Armstrong to the lead through turn 1, is now taking the lead for himself, and he goes right across the racetrack.
Loses the nose of it for sure there off at turn number 4. Armstrong back down to the inside. Brian Mercurio looks to try to take the lead away, maybe. All over the back bumper of Ryan Doucette. Can't peek down to the inside, though, with Joe Armstrong right there. Zach Novak in 4th. Daniel Falkingham completes your top 5.
Doucette's figured out through the trial, but if you stay just a little bit higher, you can get a really good push out there. He did it to Armstrong to give him the lead. Now he's letting Mercurio do it to him to get Doucette the lead now. And so he's just utilising the draft and the pushing quite well here on the trial, where you see it again here. He doesn't need to necessarily this time round, but Doucette using the draft and the bump drafting very well here off this restart. Oh, trouble in the background.
And that was Corey Carpenter once again. Ryan Hunter, this is, believe something similar to what we saw with Ashley Kolonix and Carpenter to bring out the last caution.
Seems like it. Well, we will see, but I would have thought there'd be a little bit less loose off condition after the tyre change. I thought tyres were producing quite a lot of it, but let's see. Is it 97 trying to come through the middle here in a 4 wide moment? Yes, it is. A bit of a running, they've just run out of space there more than anything, I think.
And Carpenter, back-to-back incidents for that number 37. Gotta know Justin Malillo not happy seeing his car in the wall. But not much you can do there. I mean, I think Carpenter had too much of a run, and don't know if just didn't account for Ryan Hunter up on the high side or didn't judge it correctly. But either way, they come together and make contact on the outside and put us under the yellow flag once again. And this time we'll be inside 40 laps to go.
It's kind of one of those that was always going to happen, really, because, you know, it'd be a miracle if all 4 of them accounted for each other, and that changing situation all in a very short period of time to allow for that sort of battle to sort of resolve itself, if you like, as they came over the or on towards the start-finish straight. I don't really see a way in which that wasn't going to end in an incident, really. But whatever 4 drivers you've got, when you're in the middle of a pack like that, it's so difficult to avoid each other. There's 4 drivers, though, that will have benefited from that. I don't know, I didn't catch their numbers or names as they went past, so I apologise for that. But in the last caution, before this one, 4 drivers got a wave around by staying out. They would have been on really old tyres there on that restart, if I'm not mistaken. And so they have been given a lifeline, really.
Yeah, those 4 cars were Malachi Drake in the 90, Lawson Peel, Jake Nichols, and Sean Conklin, who all of which had come down on the pit lane. But again, that was wave around prior to last caution. So big saving grace for those 4 for sure, as all have taken the opportunity to come back down and get equal tires to the rest of the leaders.
Slightly better, you could argue. Not that it's going to make much of a difference, but they'll have a very slight edge as far as that is concerned. I do wonder if this is going to continue start and stop now for the last 40 laps, or whether we're going to get a long run to the finish. To be honest, I can't decide myself. Normally there's a feel to the race where you feel like, you know, this is going to be the last restart, or no, this is going to be stop and start. To be honest, I can't quite get a sense of what this last 40 laps is going to look like.
Yeah, and it could really go either way here. I mean, I think similar to what we see sometimes when the laps started to get whittled down, you know, that's when you really start to see the urgency pick up and some more aggressive moves being made, especially a little further in the back where everybody doesn't have as much time as they do up front. So I could see it going that way, but I could also see it on the flip side where we do settle into a groove and find ourselves on a longer green flag run like we have seen multiple times throughout this race. Obviously, I welcome the green flag conclusion of it, but I think it's very possible that we end up in a scenario where we have a chain of cautions or something to that effect. So
yeah, I agree. I think if I was to put my money anywhere, it would be on a more start and stop finish to this race. But let's see. As you say, it can go absolutely either way, this at the moment.
Only way to find out is to see on this restart. It'll be the 41 of Brian Mercurio and the 077 of Ryan Doucette on the front row to lead the field to green. Joe Armstrong, ready for this restart, was all over the back bumper of Ryan Doucette. Green flag back in the air, and Mercurio backs up to the back, or the front bumper, excuse me, of Zach Novak. Meanwhile, Doucette, Armstrong, and Michael P. Frisch with a little bit of a run on the high side.
Doucette with a very good restart indeed, and Armstrong got a pretty good one last time round as well, so he's always going to be strong, especially if he's directly behind you like this. Mercurio with no friends on the inside at the moment to push him. Here comes Frisch on the inside along with Novak as well. Just all inside the top 5 at the moment, door to door. Mercurio and Armstrong very nearly make contact.
Doucette, Armstrong, and Frisch at the stripe, your top 3. Falkingham with a huge shove to the back end of the 58. Side by side with Brian Mercurio for the 4th spot. Armstrong looking down to the inside, hasn't had a good go of it on these restarts, but trying to change that narrative as he's down to the inside of Ryan Doucette.
Novak's getting swallowed up here in the midfield, by the way. He needs this race to go green to the end, and I think if it does, he might win it. But if this is short runs, then he's going to struggle, and you can see him struggling at the moment. 6th place, he's just got alongside Basin again, but now he's been overtaken. Wilkerson's right behind him now as well.
Starting to feel more similar to what we saw at the end of stage 1 as well, where you can feel the intensity picking up, and Joe Armstrong trying to get up and go around this 077 of Ryan Doucette. Daniel Falkingham, another one of those as well, super aggressive and was given huge shoves to the back end of the number 58. How about Dylan Basin, who's found himself up inside the top 5? Caution flag is out, wrecking in the back. I saw for sure Chris Wetz was one of the cars involved, and it looked like Tom Wetmore another as well. You can see stopped on the banking.
I think we've got our answer. It's going to be a stop and start finish to this race, and therefore we're going to get big decisions here as far as pit stops go. Are you going to decide, especially in 10 laps or so, if there's another caution, that a pit stop is worth it here? Are we going to get differences in tyre calls as we have a look at what caused the caution itself? That was a bit all careless on the back straight.
Yeah, looks like ran out of room. Kevin McAdams came up in front of Tom Wetmore, who had a run, and then Wetmore and Nate Stewart come together, spins Wetmore off the front bumper of the 15 and Nate Stewart. Wetmore comes back into traffic, collects Chris Wetz, and a few others get some damage. You can see Wetz involved there, and pretty significant hits there for a few.
Yeah, biggest wreck of the day, I'd say. For amount of drivers involved and severity of the impact. So let's see who comes into who here. Yeah, well, they're sort of a meeting in the middle there, really. But anyway, spinning across in front of the pack. Yeah, pretty big hits in the pack there. So there'll be some guys coming down with damage here in a second.
Race Control going to agree with your analysis of that. Ewan called a racing deal between Nate Stewart and the 093 Wetmore. So
that's a top 1 feeling as a commentator. Pleased about that.
So few cars came down the pit lane there. List them off for you. Kevin King, who we haven't mentioned much today, but we know a winning driver here in the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. Garrett Conrath, Connor Horn, Ashley Kolonix, Brandon Cattell, Paul Mikolajczyk, David L. Brown, Nick DePalmo, Jake Nichols, Lawson Peel, Jonathan Cutlip. So we really have three main groups here. We have your lead pack who all pitted under the, it would have been 2 cautions ago now, so about 15 laps ago. But that includes guys like Ryan Doucette, Joe Armstrong, Michael P. Frisch, Daniel Falkingham, Dylan Basin, Brian Mercurio, etc., all on 13-lap-old tires. You have to go all the way back to Ray Alfala. It's the first car that came down under the last caution that we had, which was going to be about 6 or 7 laps ago. But Ray Alfala, Ronnie Osmer, Cosmin Ionescu, Art Reimer, Jake Poulin, all part of that group. And then all those drivers I listed off that have been on the pit road this time by are on the freshest tires of everyone. So few different strategies with 33 laps to go, and we'll see if we get a green flag run and can allow those differences to show himself.
Yeah, so a couple of stories there I want to pick up on from those who pitted this time round, by the way. Jake Nichols, see if he can get back up towards the front. Don't forget he was on the front row at the very start of this race and led a couple of laps, if I'm not mistaken, early on in the race as well. He'll be interested to see come back through the field. And David L. Brown, who's had a pretty miserable day, I think, well, at least from what we've seen of him. See if he can pick that up now and try and gain some points, because Ockingham and Frisch, who are near him in the points, are well ahead of him right now. He's second place in points, tied with Frisch is David L. Brown. Needs to do something to try and rescue some points here, so maybe this tyre call here with 32 to go, as it will be on the restart, is going to be the key for him.
We were going to go green this time by, but I believe there is some sort of lineup dispute somewhere. They have waved this start off, so still trying to figure this out right now. Chris Wetz takes the opportunity to come back down the pit lane, maybe fill up on fuel here.
Damage?
See, I think
he was hit for that caution, wasn't he? He was involved in that crash, so he might be in the last few seconds of optionals cleared.
I'm trying to listen to race control chatter because they're talking about whatever the holdup is here, but I don't know. So sounded like there may have been some choose cone questions of if people chose in the correct spots, but nothing concrete because I haven't seen any penalties issued or any EOLs issued for the restart. So they'll line up as we described. And so no penalties as a result of that. So just a lap delay for this restart, but it'll be Ryan Doucette, Michael P. Frisch, Joe Armstrong, Dylan Basin, Daniel Falkingham, your top 5. Green flag back in the air. Doucette's going to go around off the nose of Michael P. Frisch. Off the restart, caution flag out immediately. Your top 2 leaders make contact, and it's Ryan Doucette who gets the worst of it.
Well, they're going to be pointing fingers at each other there as to who was at fault for that. Doucette, though, to the back of the field from the very front on that restart. What a complete disaster for him. We'll try and see in a moment what exactly happened, but as I say, I think they'll be pointing fingers at each other there, saying the other was at fault. Doucette will come back through the field and retake some of those places lost under caution. See this again here. Does Doucette come down, or just Frisch come up into him? To be honest with you, I don't see why Doucette's trying to crowd him down like that, in my opinion.
So I think if we could take a more aerial look at this, I think Joe Armstrong is shoving the 77 on the restart, and I think it shoves Doucette down into Michael P. Frisch.
Might be right there. Matt on board definitely makes it look like Armstrong the instigator of that.
Because you're right, there wouldn't be a reason to crowd Frisch that much on the restart.
He's shoving him hard.
Which, I mean, we've seen that from Joe Armstrong. I mean...
For everyone.
Yeah, I mean, it's how you take these restarts is to just get as close to the back bumper as possible. But it's the first time that we've seen anything like that, where it ends up turning the leader around. But late race stroke of controversy to shake things up.
And don't forget the irony, by the way, of the fact that Armstrong very nearly did exactly that on the start of this race. Lap 1, he very nearly spun a couple of times. I guess that was spinning up the rear tyres rather than getting a shove. But the irony definitely there, that when he was on the front row, very nearly lost it in front of the field. But I think he's going to be, at the very least, even if not in the eyes of race control, he's going to be blamed by Doucette for that, I would say.
And either way,
Doucette's taking 4 tyres, by the way.
He is what looks like all the way back in 41st right now. And yeah, I mean, 4 tires are not what you want to see inside 30 laps to go. I mean, perhaps could see a Daniel Falkingham-esque charge up through the field, but I don't think Doucette's been that that good where Falkingham's been able to run any line. Doucette, that car has been super comfortable on the high side, and if you get that line taken away, it can somewhat neutralize it, but not a great part for somebody who is in contention for this race. And Doucette right now is sitting 29th in points. He needs every bit of a good points day, and hopefully not cheated out of it with a wreck from the lead inside 28 to go.
The positive, for even though it sounds like he's a very long way back in points, 29th, and he's 378 off of Falkingham, who currently leads. He's only about 153 off of 15th place, so he's not that far away. He just needs, as you say, a couple of good points days. We're not that far from the chase off, so a couple of months away now, or still 3.5 months away or so. So we've not got that long to go now, and he does need to start getting some of these points. And I think he will make up some places, by the way, on this restart here. I think you're right, he's not going to be quite as quick as Falkingham was coming through the field, but I wouldn't be shocked to see him in the top 10 at all here.
Definitely just remains to be seen. And we'll see if this restart can get going a little more smoothly. Looking back through the field, everybody lined up correctly. Should be good to go. Pace car off. It's going to be Joe Armstrong and Falkingham now leading the field to the green flag. Falkingham, a pretty awful start as Dylan Bason's almost clear of the outside leader of that lane.
Combination of Bason pushing really well and Falkingham going nowhere. And the inside line wins out pretty comfortably into turn 1 and 2. Look at how close it is in the background. Hopefully we are going to get some green flag racing now. It's going to be close.
We're spinning in the back. Paul Mikolajczyk's around. A big hit for Malachi Drake. And the number 90, and we find ourselves under the caution flag again. Kevin King got a piece of that. I don't know exactly where that started. Was in the mid-pack, though.
Yeah. I must admit, I didn't spot it in the background there myself. Let's see how it started. Oh, again, it's just drivers who think they're clear, who aren't quite. And, yeah, relatively big hit on the inside wall.
Just not clear. Kevin King, who's had a day to forget.
Oh, and still goes on. All car got turned by 71 there as they were trying to avoid. That was a bit of an unnecessary bit of damage, but what happens when you're trying to avoid people spinning around?
This is on board with Connor Horn.
I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
Few secondary incidents there. Not only was that the initial contact with Kevin King, and Malachi Drake and Jake Poulin got together as well just ahead of it. So Paul Mikolajczyk, Malachi Drake, and Connor Horn, I'd say, with the worst of that one. Under caution again.
So is the whole field going to end up pitting in here in the last 40 laps because they've all been involved in a caution at some point? It seems that everyone who gets caught up in a caution comes in, and the list of drivers who haven't been in now since that 45 to go caution, we'll have to call it, because I can't remember how many ago it was. There's relatively few of them now up towards the front who are still on those tyres from before. But then again, they've not actually done that much green flag racing on those tyres anyway.
No, and I mean, that's a really important thing to remember is, yeah, it's been 22 laps since they've been on the pit road, but I feel like, you know, 3/4 of that have been run under caution flag conditions. So really, these tires don't have that much wear on them.
You could definitely count the amount of laps they've done on your hands, maybe on one hand. It's really, really low wear at the moment for those tyres. They should be fine. I think at this stage now, because we've not really had that green flag run build-up on these tyres, these guys are just going to go with what they've got now. Unless you're involved in a caution or you're right down towards the back and you've got nothing to lose, I think you're going to stay on these tyres towards the end here, because the track position you give up is just too much for the benefit you get. I mean, you'll be able to see better than me, but the guys who are coming through on newer tyres just not really getting anywhere.
And it feels like the landscape of this race has shifted so much, even just inside the last 20 or so laps. And through all the smoke and all the yellows, it's Joe Armstrong who has been able to make it through. Dylan Basin has climbed back up, was struggling to stay inside the top 15 at one point, but he's back. Brian Mercurio with a very good run so far today. Another one of those guys outside of the playoff picture, at least the locked-in playoff picture right now. So welcomes a good run today. Daniel Falkingham, who it seems like out of everybody inside this top 5 has been the main staple up at the front, he and Joe Armstrong together. But we'll just have to wait and see if we can click a few laps off here after this restart. Green flag back in the air. Basin going to fall into line with Armstrong. Brian Mercurio in tow. And it's Falkingham, Frisch, and Dahari back on the inside.
Armstrong with a decent restart, even without Basin right behind him this time. Can we get through the backstretch this time round without trouble? Oh, Basin's in the fence! This could be trouble. They just about scrape around him. Falkingham and Mercurio having to go round on the low side.
Basin holds on to it. Seth Knoll and Brian Mercurio side by side. You can see Zach Kerr, Michael P. Frisch, and Gabriel Dahari 3 wide, a little further behind. Going to allow Zach Novak an opportunity, perhaps. Still 3 wide between these 3, all of them clogging the track, and not a lot of room for guys that are faster like Zach Novak right now on this outside to go.
Yeah, Novak's getting killed by all this at the moment. These successive short runs are really killing him, but now he's starting to make a move down the inside of Kerr and of Mercurio as well. Novak into the top 5 briefly before they come off a 4.
Armstrong, Falkingham, Basin, your top 3 as they cross the stripe. And you can see Basin all the way up to the outside wall now. Going to try to drive it back down, but Falkingham going to be right there. Good run off the backstretch for Dylan Basin and into turn 3. They're going to make it 3 wide for the race lead. Basin goes underneath Armstrong. Falkingham all the way up against the wall.
Oh, I thought they were going to be 3 wide off the corner there as well, but not quite. Falkingham's got the run though. He'll be through on Basin. Will he just about clear? Now he's going to try and clear Armstrong if possible. Oh, it's going to cost him through the infield.
Nate Stewart going to come to rest and get tagged. That should be enough to throw out the caution. It was a single car spin by Nate Stewart through the infield grass until one car made contact with him. Nick DePalmo, it looks like.
Yep. It's not like you can do that when you're in the triangle. You can't change lane very easily and very quickly. And that would have been pretty big damage for the 2 of them. So we'll see how Stewart went around in the first place, but we saw live how Palmo got involved in it. This is the incident itself off a 4. Again, how many times have we seen that tonight? Not quite realising you're not quite clear.
Yeah, Nate Stewart had his time in the sun for a good bit, but has all come apart.
I don't remember how many laps he led, but he did lead at some stage. So in the midfield at the time this happened though. There's Greg Doucette, by the way. Didn't catch a glimpse of how his progress was going, but just saw him coming through there. I think, hovering around the top 20. I still maintain he'll be in the top 10 by the end. Just, I think he's going to be in contention for the win like he was before. This is De Palmo.
Just misjudges.
Yeah. Also, you can't see.
Yeah. And I mean, this race that got off to a few consecutive long green flag runs. Again, we've mentioned that over the course of this year, it's felt like we get a chain of yellows to start the race and then find ourselves in a groove for the back half. It's been a flip of the script as we started this race off with a few long green flag runs. That caution right there was our 10th of the night with 17 laps to go. So see if this chain continues, or if we can settle in and get a run to the end here. I know guys like Daniel Falkingham would welcome that. Joe Armstrong probably would as well, but he's been doing his own. He had a car that really only came alive, it felt like, after about 15 or so laps. And again, he's done a flip here where he's been able to hold everybody off with clean air, but also having control of these restarts.
I think two names who have one won and one lost. The biggest, I think, of the big names out front. I think the biggest winner out of this sort of stop-start end to the race has been Falkingham, because, well, he does need a few of those laps to get going. He didn't need another 45-lap run like what we had just before, because he really fell off towards the end of that run, and so a really long run towards the end would have really done for him. So I think this has benefited him actually a little bit more than some of the others. And one driver who's been really hurt by this is Zach Novak. I mean, he's racing well like himself, but I don't think his car's up to it, to be honest, in these short runs. Maybe if we don't get another caution between now and the end, he might have a chance, but I just can't see it at the moment. With stop and start runs like this, I just can't see it for him.
Last restart, I mean, I think the one I have my eye on here is Zach Novak. Shot out of a cannon on that last restart, and I think has an opportunity to do the same here, but it's going to be difficult. I mean, it's one thing to even get to the lead, much less complete a pass, with going to be 16 laps to go on the restart, and especially on a car that's been as strong as Joe Armstrong has been today, Daniel Falkingham as well. So these two have been the class of the field, and I believe it's going to be difficult, but Zach Novak maybe has a shot. Basin and Knoll, Mercurio, I think any of these three, really anybody within this top 6, I wouldn't be surprised to see in victory lane here in 17 more laps. Pace car is off. Good shove from Basin to Joe Armstrong. Another fantastic restart from that line. Falkingham does not get going, and Seth Knoll gives him a push afterwards to get him into turn number 1. Basin is going to have the advantage, but I mean, just going to straight up clear him off turn 2 now.
Front 3 all clear from one another, and they might well just drive away, just get that brief bit of respite, but not quite. It's all too close for that. Into 3 and 4. Look at this in the background. 3 wide again already. You don't even have to go that far back to find 3 wide. Goodness me, close off of 4 again. They complete another lap, 15 to go.
Armstrong, Basin, and Falkingham, your top 3. As you can see, the amount of cars running that high line right here can be very difficult, especially back in traffic. When you all run that high line, you can get stacked up super easily, so gotta watch out for that. That's where you can see Garrett Conrath trying to take advantage a little further back by making it 3 wide down on the inside, trying to complete a pass on Michael Peake. Fritsch can't hold it. Little bit of contact. Almost came together with those 3.
How many times have we seen incidents like that happen in exactly that kind of way? They get away with it that time, though, and they stay 3 wide on the way towards turn 1. That is Frisk in the middle of all of that. Hyde second place in the points coming into today. Look at that, so tight on the outside line. No space out here almost.
No space at all, and you called it. Look at Jake Nichols, who has reared his head back to the top 10 to finally climb back from where he started at the start of this race. A little bit of bump drafting going on in the front stretch here at Kansas.
backdrafted with the wall as well. I don't know what that's called, but anyway, they were slamming the wall off of turn 4. Nichols, though, yeah, really coming through the field, and some of those guys on newer tyres starting to, I think, to make some ground, although Nichols was in the fence there through turn 1 and 2, which didn't help. That stacked up the field behind him. Doucette's involved in that as well. He's 16th.
Meanwhile, back up at the front, starting to get real. Dylan Basin has a run on Joe Armstrong down to the inside for the lead. Armstrong going to throw a block, and now Basin falls into line. Falkingham going to have a run behind him for third. He'll deliver a shot to the back end of the number 11 to get him back down into turn number 1. Basin going to stick up on the high side, see how much momentum he can get, and if he can make another surge to Joe Armstrong to try to take the lead away with 12 laps to go.
I must admit, I thought Falkingham had a bit of a better short-run car than this, to be honest. I thought he'd be challenging for the lead pretty much immediately here, but he's actually under more pressure from Seth Knoll in behind. And the longer this goes, Zach Novak's got a better chance. He now moves to the inside for 4th.
Be cognizant as well, Jacob Wilkerson had a black flag, had to serve it, and is now lap traffic for this group. A tough break for the number 43, who has been up inside the top 10 for a lot of today's race. Won't have a good result to reflect that, though. Armstrong, Basin, Falkingham, Knoll, and Novak, your top 5 as we come to 10 laps to go at Kansas. Look at Seth Knoll, a huge entry for that number 1. He's going to give up a lot on exit as Falkingham's going to get by him, and maybe even Novak.
Falkingham saw that coming, and now he throws the block. Novak pushes, real shove over the line there through the triangle. Novak wants 4th place as well here, as Seth Knoll put it all on the line to try and take 4th away. He's not managed it, and now Novak's stuck on the inside.
Falkingham and Novak now going to be side by side. Falkingham with help from the Raising Cane's machine of Seth Knoll into turns 3 and 4. Falkingham with the shove on the high side, trying to keep that momentum up. He'll come back down, try to arc it similar to what we saw from Ryan Doucette earlier, but Seth Knoll will get too much of a run and will be back. Meanwhile, Dylan Basin all over the back bumper of Joe Armstrong for the lead. They make contact. Big contact as Armstrong gonna fly down to the bottom lane. He'll lose the front end of the car and slide back up in front of Dylan Basin, who pulls the crossover and comes back down to the inside.
Wow. That was aggressive between the two, and Armstrong did a really good job to hold on to the car there. Basin's now going to do the same slide job that was done to him through 1 and 2. He does it through 3 and 4. Armstrong gets the run, nearly side by side at the line again here. Basin throws the block down on the apron.
Oh, and caution out on the racetrack. Believe it's Ray Alfala. Yes, the drafty car machine around on the front straightaway. A little bit of contact puts us under what will be the 11th caution of the day, and this one coming within 10 laps to go.
Well, this is going to be, well, I'm going to say it. This has got overtime written all over it. Just for, I'm just going to put it out there. It is a real stop finish to this race. Let's see what happened to Ray Alfala here. Oh, turned by the 4, or did he come up into the 4? That will be to be decided. But that was the 2 cars that made contact. And they now really, Alfala, I should say, now really drops to the back end of the field. Let's have another look at it here, if I can decide for myself. Pretty difficult. We'll see what the race control have to say about that, but Alfala drops to the back. Pretty difficult evening for him, really. Not quite shown his vintage speed here tonight. Let's have a look on board, see if we can decide any further. On board with a 4. Maybe could have stayed a bit higher there, the 4, for a bit longer there before the tri-oval. But there you go. The 2 gets turned, and we'll take a couple more tyres, you'd imagine, and maybe a damage repair as well. Now then, who's going to pit? Who is going to pit here under this caution? I've got to say, with this amount of laps remaining, I wasn't expecting to see quite so many in, but it looks like Kwame Scott is the first into pit lane. I think he was running about 10th when the caution came out, if I'm not mistaken. About 15 or so down on pit lane. Don't forget, some of the guys that down there will be damaged from before anyway. Plenty of pit stops here, and are there enough laps to really make use of those new tyres before the finish? I'm not sure there is, but good to see a few taking the risk.
Yeah, and I mean, I think potentially could pay off if we see a few overtimes, which is absolutely not out of the question with what we've seen on these restarts with how chaotic everybody's been driving, especially through the midfield. Wouldn't rule out the possibility of an overtime or two, but agree with you on that. I don't know if it's a great call to sacrifice a lot of track position for the sake of coming down and getting tires, but...
Yeah. I mean, Scott sacrificed the top 10, I think. If I'm remembering correctly, I think it's about 10th. So I think that's a real big gamble to give up. I think the guys who are on relative sort of newish tyres like Doucette and Nichols have got a much better chance of moving forward, to be honest, than they have. But anyway, we'll see here as we come to the choose.
Choosing this time. And yeah, I mean, if you're curious, so... It definitely looks like a good move on paper because it's been 41 laps since guys like Dylan Basin and Joe Armstrong were on the pit lane. However, again, like we were talking about, when you take into account all these caution laps, there's really not that much wear on the tires. There is some now after that last run, but I mean, keep in mind, Dylan Basin just ran his fastest lap of the race 10 laps ago.
Yeah.
So
that's one problem. The other problem I feel is traffic and the fact that if they're running 3 wide, there's just no way you can go anyway. So it doesn't matter how bad their tyres are and how good yours are. If they're running 3 wide in front of you like we've seen all day, it's going to be so hard to move forward. And third of all, there might only be 2 laps of green flag running to the end of this race anyway. If we get a really early caution off this restart and then overtime, there'll only be 2 laps anyway.
Gamble for sure, but we'll see how it pays off. It'll be Dylan Basin and Joe Armstrong once again to lead us back to the green flag. Seth Knowles, Zach Novak in row number 2. Brian Mercurio, Daniel Falkingham in row number 3. Frisch and Kerr in row number 4. Ryan Doucette and Gabriel Dahari round out your top 10. Green flag back in the air. A big wiggle out of the Dylan Basin machine. He's going to have to recollect himself down on the apron. Zach Novak and Joe Armstrong working together up on the outside. Basin is barely almost clear, but can't get there as Armstrong with a big run of momentum. Here comes Zach Novak on the top lane.
Armstrong's going to be helped to the lead here by Novak down the back stretch. There's the shove, and Falkingham comes with them. The battle for 4th place might well take them out. The battle for the win here as they all chase up high, trying to find the...
and they're wrecking Osmer around in the midfield. Caution is out. Big wreck. Kwame Scott's around. Cosmin Ionescu.
New tie, guys, trying to come through.
Kwame Scott's going to park it. I think Nate Stewart had gotten a piece of that. Or sorry, that was Tom Wetmore.
That caution number 12 now, is that?
Yeah.
That's me.
And will give us an overtime finish. See what happens.
I mean, as I say, it's new tyre guys trying to come through. The older tyre guys not able to cope with it. I mean, look at this. 97's in the wall. It all stacks up from there, and there's a big crash. I mean, Scott, as you say, involved in it, and decides that enough is enough. I'm not sure what's going to happen to Dylan Basin here, by the way. He was trying to come to pit lane there. I'm not sure what he did wrong, but he was trying to come to pit lane, and now I'm not sure what's going to happen to him.
And that is the biggest wreck we've seen today. You can see Connor Horn makes contact with Wetmore afterwards. They take a little bit of a alternate line through the infield grass, and we now have overtime to worry about here.
Well, how many attempts are we going to require here? Suspected it would come to overtime. Indeed, there won't be any drivers from the front coming into pit lane with this amount of time remaining, but there you go. It's going to be a very exciting finish here to this one. I think, again, Zach Novak probably doesn't benefit from all these cautions, but this time round, for the first time, he's got the choice, at least, to start the other side of Armstrong on the front, and that's the first time that's happened for a while.
And for those unfamiliar, just joining us here in the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series, some little bit of an older rule set around overtime here, not unlimited attempts like the real-life NASCAR Cup Series. We get up to 3 attempts. So as is in the name with green, white, checkered, we will take the green flag with 2 laps to go, come around to take the white flag, and then once we get to that white flag, basically the next flag ends it. However, not like NASCAR where there's, scoring loops to worry about, timing loops, that sort of thing. They would just wait to throw the caution until everybody comes around for the checkered flag. So with that being said, up to 3 attempts here. So if we wreck before we get to the white flag, then we would re-rack them and do this all again. And we would do that twice until we got to that 3rd and final attempt at overtime. So could be the final restart here, but could also have a few more in the chamber. Just kind of depends on what the pack decides they want to do here on this restart.
Exactly, and I was just looking back through the field there and looking at the slightly reduced numbers now after all that's gone on here tonight. Wondering if we get to attempt 3, how many of them's going to be left. But anyway, hopefully we don't get to that stage. Hopefully this is going to be a good, exciting 2-lap run to the finish.
Overtime here in the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series. Joe Armstrong and Zach Novak, who has found his way back to the front row. We'll see how it all plays out. Green flag back in the air. Not a good launch for the number 49. He's got Falkingham all over the back bumper. Seth Knoll glued to the 022 as they go down into turn number 1. Knoll looks to the outside. Big block from Armstrong.
How does he manage this, Armstrong? He's going to have drivers trying to come through left, right and centre here. Knoll on the outside, going to get blocked immediately, but he's clear Knoll. He's got the chance to go to the inside for 3 and 4.
Through turns 3 and 4, it's Joe Armstrong blocking everybody up. They're going to get stacked up. Daniel Falkingham, Zach Novak, and Seth Knoll. Through the rest of the field, they're wrecking Kevin King. Sean Conklin's up and almost over. It's a huge wreck. Kevin McAdams is around. Michael P. Frisch.
No caution.
There was not a caution for that somehow. I don't know how. Joe Armstrong, though, has the lead. Zach Novak attacking Seth Knoll. Down the backstretch, this will be for the final time and coming to the checkered flag. Joe Armstrong. Huge run up turn number 4 and somehow survives the pandemonium. It's Joe Armstrong in victory lane. Zach Novak will come home with 2nd, Seth Knoll in 3rd. And, I mean, very chaotic final run there with a huge wreck coming to the white flag.
It turns out, wasn't possible to throw the caution. And Joe Armstrong wins the race. It's only his 2nd top 10 of the year. And, it's hard to begrudge him in the end, the victory, because he's been strong all day. Got the pole, don't forget. It certainly wasn't a lights to flag victory by any means. It was a hard-fought win. But under bizarre circumstances, it must be admitted, the battle for 2nd between Novak and Knoll in the end in the last lap did help him. But again, don't want to take anything away from him personally in that victory, because he absolutely deserved it. Out front all day long, or at least around the front all day long. A good speed on both short and long runs. Maybe not the best in either, but he was there when it mattered. And he's crossed the line at the end of the most important lap, the final one, of course, and he's taken his 1st win of the year.
Yeah, and thought for sure there that we would see the yellow, but yeah, I mean, just iRacing wouldn't let the caution be thrown there, so we race it to the end. And Joe Armstrong, I mean, again, like you said, a valiant effort from him. Let's go ahead and take a look at the results here of this race. And again, a chaotic end to it tonight with the biggest wreck that we've seen all night long. Joe Armstrong coming home with the checkered flag here. Be his 1st win of the season. Zach Novak in the 2nd position. Seth Knoll 3rd. Daniel Falkingham in 4th. Ryan Doucette 5th. Brian Mercurio in 6th. Zach Kerr with a top 10 in 7th. Jake Nichols rebounds to 8th. Gabriel Dahari in 9th. And Malachi Drake rebounds from that earlier caution to come home with the top 10.
11th place went to Dylan Basin, despite the fact he had a black flag towards the end and had to drop all the way back down the field. Connor Horn got up to 12th after all the calamities of the day. Ashley Kolnick's just in behind in 13th, ahead of Rayo Fowler and Jaden Hopp rounding out the top 15. Jonathan Cutlip was 16th, ahead of Tom Wetmore, who gained 15 places today. Alexander Van der Sant battled back to 16th after being involved in the first caution of the afternoon. Sean Conklin and Cosmin Anuosu round out the top 20.
Nate Stewart in 21st, Brian Sabelski 22nd, Jake Poulin 23rd, Ronnie Osmer 24th, Art Reimer in 25th, Paul Mikolajczyk in 26th, Jacob Wilkerson in 27th, Chris Wetz 28th, Ryan Hunter in 29th, and Garrett Conrath round out the top 30.
31st for Lawson Peel, with Michael P. Fritz losing points from 32nd. He was tied second in points coming into the day with David L. Brown, 32nd and 33rd. He would get long odds on that on the start of the day. Kevin McAdams, Kevin Kint and Corey Carpenter round out those on the lead lap. Brandon Kettle finished one lap down alongside William Schmidt. Christian Kendall 4 down, with Kwame Scott parking it before that on that previous penultimate caution.
And then Nick DePalmo, Jose Solis, Eric LeBombard. The final of 43, Justin Malillo, was a start and park to make up your field of 44. Real fast before we break into interviews with your top 3, let's take a look at this final caution, or excuse me, not caution, but wreck. And it was Kevin King. I mean, we saw Sean Conklin get airborne, an absolutely massive wreck, Ewan.
Absolutely huge. And it's by far the biggest we've seen so far today. The bizarre thing is that everybody turns around quickly as possible, trying to get racing again because the green flag was still out. See where it's that initial contact there between 12 and 29. In the end, the 12 almost gets away with it, but up into the air in the background there as well. Just when you're in the mid-pack like this, you've just got nowhere to go. And this is why it was such a risk at any stage in those final 40 laps or so to come in and take tyres under one of the cautions, because you can end up back in the pack and end up in something like this.
Yeah, and not a great end for so many guys who were up in the top 15 and contenders all night long. On board with Ashley Kolnick, we'll see her manage through this final wreck. You can see Conklin go airborne, and then just not much you can do. But wow, she actually has a good avoidance of that for the most part. And then just got to keep your foot in it. You see Dylan Basin down to the inside, and keep on trucking to the checkered flag.
I mean, that's that crash avoidance, if you like, but not only from Kolnick, but from a number of others as well. That's exactly how some of these guys got up into the top 15 or so and got some great results up and down the field here tonight.
Great results up and down the field, but great result for Joe Armstrong to pick up his first win of the 2025 season. Not only your first win, but I mean, first or second top 5, I believe, of the year, but just rapid pace out of you all night long, Joe.
Yeah, I don't know where the pace came from. I've run a lot of like the fixed stuff this week, but it doesn't really translate in terms of like how to run, what lines to run and stuff. And when you're side by side with guys, like how you're racing them is a little bit different than in the officials. But I found a line. I don't even know when I found a line, but like that seam, like putting the left sides on that first seam was just like insane pace. And for like the first 15 laps of a run, I'd be like really out to lunch, and I just kind of let guys roll around on the outside, and then I'd start reeling them back in. And I had a really good battle with Ryan Doucette and Kwame and even Dylan for the first 60 or 70 laps of the race. And then they kind of had their things all happen, and I was able to capitalize off of it. So this is probably my first FTF race ever where I've just been able to put a complete race together. And yeah, fortunately it was able to kind of all work out in the end.
Coming into today, obviously still waiting on the rest of the points outlook, but I mean, what kind of a confidence builder is this for you going into Indianapolis next week, where we're going to be running the 87s there, which you picked up your prior top 5 at Homestead in the 87s.
Yeah, it definitely gives me a lot of momentum. I was coming off a rough little stretch there. I finished like 21st at Bristol and was just slow. So to hop back in the next gen and kind of refine that pace that I had at the beginning of the season, it's refreshing for sure. And to be able to beat a lot of the guys who are racing on Tuesdays, and those are like big name guys like Zach Novak and Daniel Falkingham, like championship level guys. perennial championship level guys, and so to beat them pretty much straight up is definitely a confidence booster. And like you said, next week is Indy with the 87s, and I picked up top 5 at Homestead with those cars. So certainly learning how to race those cars still, but it gives me a big confidence booster, especially since I'm like 20th in points right now. So trying to get up into that top 15 or back into the top 15. I was close, and then we had a rough Bristol, and I just missed the last couple of weeks. So looking forward to the summer stretch for sure.
Yeah, I mean, next week into Indianapolis before the little bit of mid-May break that we find ourselves in. But either way, congratulations on the win. An incredible drive from you. And I hope to see more of the same next week in Indianapolis.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. And thank you for broadcasting it. I will definitely be watching back.
That is your race winner in Joe Armstrong. We'll go take a moment with Ewan, who is with Zach Novak.
Yeah, second week in a row, second place again. Zach, congratulations on that. I got the feeling throughout those last 40 laps you would have been a bit frustrated not to have a longer green flag run towards the end. Would that be an accurate assumption of how you're feeling at the end of this one?
Yeah, very accurate. As you guys saw, the last really long run we had, I had everybody covered. Felt really good. Managed the tires really well, and I think Joe was starting to get me at the end of it. I definitely burned off my tires a little bit towards the start of that run, more than I wanted to. But overall, I mean, this is this type of track where you can kind of search around and find grip wherever, especially when it's super hot like this. Yeah, it just kind of fits right into my wheelhouse, and just really frustrating that Texas and here I felt like I had race winning speed and just didn't even have a chance to get it. So yeah, just frustrating, but second's good, of course. But man, finishing second is not fun either. It's really not.
Of course, but the positive, I guess, that you can take from it is the speed. What was the key to keeping those tyres in check in these conditions at this circuit? Because we heard, I think it was Falkingham who we heard from, his rear right was on maybe 26% or something after that long green flag run we had just after the stage here tonight. What was the key to keeping your tyres in check so much better than everybody else?
Yeah, the first run, I was struggling really bad. I had like 37% on the right rear the first run. And so after that, I was like, okay, I'm just going to need to, manage them better, really, and find anything I could to manage them better. And with the draft being as strong as it is in this car, we were struggling with grip in the tri-oval. So I just stopped holding it full throttle through there. And I was going down to about, anywhere from 75 to 90% or so, all the way through the tri-oval. And I don't know if that's what was making the difference, but it seemed to help quite a bit on top of just, being patient off the corner and trying to wait as long as I could, to get full throttle. And then on top of it all, just being patient on the bottom and rolling it, is super important. When the track's super hot like this and you're wearing tires off, just being able to find a rhythm and a consistent pace on the bottom of the racetrack is always going to help the tires.
Well, even though you are a little bit frustrated with second place and another second place in 2 weeks, congratulations on another great finish, and hopefully we'll see you again very soon.
Sound good. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much. Zach Novak, second place. Texas last week, second place tonight at Kansas as well, Caleb.
And we'll take a moment to talk to the last person who makes up this podium in Seth Knoll. And Seth, it's been somewhat of a rough go of it the last 3 weeks. It was a little bit of a rebound last week at Texas, but I'm sure it feels really good to be back on the bottom step of the podium here tonight at Kansas.
Yeah, this is a great run for us. After the Barr Visuals 500 win, it's been a little lackluster. Haven't really felt like we've ran at the finish where we should. Last week, as much as it wasn't a great finish, that was probably the first time that we really felt like that was where we ran all race. That's where we deserved to finish. This week, we did the opposite and finished way better than we probably should have. But it's a good battle up there with Falkingham, Basin, Novak. Armstrong was able to hold on. Just good executed day, and go on to next week and see what we can do there.
And you mentioned, I mean, obviously starting the season off with the win at Daytona, but yeah, super up and down for you. A few top fives, top tens here and there, but to be third today going into Indianapolis, but then after the break, I mean, how are you feeling kind of that summer stretch? You know, your 87 at Michigan, your Gateway, your Charlotte's, that type of part of the schedule.
I'll be looking forward to running about 15th during those races. That'll probably be our sluggish part of the season, but I mean, we'll see. Cards play out different every week depending on what set and weather we have, so never know when you're going to be good or when you're going to be bad, and try and go get a Parker and all those guys up there that are always up front.
Well, congratulations. It was a good run for you here today at Kansas. Fifth in points, and going to be, I'm sure, climbing after a few of those guys got caught up in that wreck there at the end of it. But appreciate your time, Seth, and we'll look forward to talking to you here soon.
All right, appreciate you, boys.
That is Seth Knoll. And I mean, again, a chaotic end of this one, or chaotic really back half of the race, Ewan. But overall, final thoughts from the Kansas Speedway here.
Yeah, it's very short runs towards the end, very much deciding the race, I think, here at Kansas. Those first 120 laps or whatever didn't matter quite so much as the final 45, where I don't know how many cautions there were in the last 45, but by the end of the day, I think we were up at 12, 13. It was very much a caution-filled race, in contrast to Texas 8 days ago, where we got nice long green flag runs towards the finish. But Zach Novak just on the wrong side of a race at the front of the field on 2 occasions, second in 2 weeks in a row now. This time round, Joe Armstrong taking the victory, so a fair play to him. Just a little bit of a shame the way the race ended, really, with the crash off of turn 4, but not much we can do about that. Got to roll on to next week and hope for some more great racing, which I'm sure we'll get once again.
That'll be next Saturday night from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with the 87s. Should be, I believe, Jacob Hitz and I in the booth for that, but you and I appreciate your help here the last few weeks. You've been an incredible addition, and looking forward to working with you again in the future. But either way, that'll do it from Kansas, the SM Racing 400K. For myself and Ewan O'Leary, Zach Johnson up in the booth. This was the SM Racing 400K at Kansas. We'll see you next Saturday night for the running of the Barr Visuals FTF Cup Series at Indianapolis.